Welcome back. We're on Ghost and Friends again. I think this is the fourth night this week, and this is going to be a good one. We've got the prediction show, and we are joined by Gage Sheets at SheetsG23 on Twitter and Savannah at Savannah2J on Twitter. Guys, welcome to the show. Thank y'all for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
To be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that we've done a lot of work these last couple of days putting together all of our picks and been pretty busy with that. So I'm hoping you all enjoy this, but let's get to it. First things first, Savannah, you are our guest, and I'm going to ask you if that's okay by you. Share a little backstory with all of our Texas guests. Pretty big Pac fan. How'd you get to where you're at?
Pretty big Pac fan, yes. My fandom is one that changes often. My dad currently coaches at NC State, so right now we're rocking with Wolfpack Nation. But I actually love Wolfpack Nation, so I think it'll stick afterwards. Prior to this, my dad coached at UVA, so I was part of Wahoo Nation. And then prior to that, he coached at both of our alma mater, which is BYU. So he played football there when he was in college. So go Cougs. But also my brother plays football at BYU. So it's kind of always go Cougs. But that's also why it's kind of go Longhorns, because my dad played with Sark at BYU. So that's kind of how we got to where we are. But it changes every once in a while. We switch it up.
So there are rumors on Twitter about, your fanhood being up for grabs. Some Longhorn fans feel like you're a little bit on our side. I don't know how that makes the Pac fans feel, but you're welcome to join us over in Austin, since there is a legit connection. And there you go. I will say this: it's really cool that you got a dad that's coaching college ball. I can't imagine a lot of the conversations, growing up, and I don't know, it reminds me of Remember the Titans and Coach Yost and his kiddo, and just always being part of the game and being around the game. So it's a really cool relationship and connection, in my opinion. But all right, let's get to it. Gage, I'm going to let you pick the first conference that we kind of get into a little bit. Which conference would you like to discuss first?
Let's go to the Big 12, because it's going to be a bloodbath. I have no idea what's going to happen in the Big 12. But after going through schedules and stuff, I do think that Utah, with their quarterback experience, that they will eventually come out on top and win the Big 12. But honestly, I have no idea how it's going to happen. and I have them actually beating UCF. I really like UCF. I like the quarterback transfer, KJ Jefferson, in Gus Malzahn's offense. I think it'll be really cool to see that. I think they've got a good running game. I think there's going to be a lot of good running games in the Big 12 this year, but I like UCF. So I think they're going to surprise some teams and win some, last second field goal games, which is probably going to be every Big 12 game this year. So yeah, that's what I'm going to go with. I'm just going to roll with Utah. I'm going to roll with the 28-year-old quarterback, and let's see if it pans out.
Yeah. I mean, he was committed to Tom Herman a while back, you know what I mean? And obviously, hopefully Cam Rising's fully healthy and ready to rock. Utah seems to kind of be the prohibitive favorite overall. I know people talk a little about a couple other teams there, but it seems everybody at the end of the day in that conversation, they roll back to Utah. So Mr. Gage likes Utah in the Big 12. You said over UCF. That would be a fun game.
Yeah.
And then let's go to Miss Savannah. When it comes to the Big 12, you got any teams that you're looking at in particular? Overachievers, underachievers? What do you think about the Big 12, Savannah?
Yeah, the Big 12 has beef with the ACC on Twitter, so I have to set aside my hatred towards the beef, because like I said, obviously my brother plays for BYU, so it's always go Cougs, but I think they're going to have a rough year. Their defense is great. I'm not so sure about the offense that they'll put together. My actual Heisman favorite is in the Big 12, though, in honor of Reggie Bush getting his Heisman back. I think a running back will win the Heisman this year, and that is in the Big 12. I think my Big 12 champion is Oklahoma State. I, for obvious reasons, can't pick Utah. but also just because who do you think you are that you get to just join a conference and win it? That's not allowed in my book. So that's what I'd say about the Big 12.
I think it's going to be a really, really, really fun conference. I love the anti-Utah hate just because of the BYU there alum.
I'm gonna bookmark that comment Savannah just made for later in the show that a first time member can't win a conference.
I didn't say they can't. I just don't want. I'd be pissed.
Well, I definitely think that there's a lot of craziness in the Big 12 that probably Utah fans and even some Colorado fans probably aren't accounting for. There's going to be just such an even playing field for so many teams. Like you said, Gage, a lot of games that are coming down to the last second, coming down to field goals. It's going to be a blast. I think it's going to be as fun to watch as any conference if there's that's going to be playing football this fall. I will say that I like the Oklahoma State pick. I like Utah pick. I do have Oklahoma State playing in my Big 12 championship game. I do have them losing that game to Texas Tech. I know that's going to be a little controversial. There might be people that think I'm insane for this, but I'll say why. Tech really hit the home run in the portal. Okay, I'll say that they upgraded an already pretty decent offensive line. They already have Taj back there running the ball. He's a monster. They two big transfers. As Josh Kelly is one of them, and then let's see, I've got someone else. So Caleb Douglas out of Florida, and so I think that between a really good running game, a really good offensive line, Baron Morton, who's struggled a little bit, turned the ball over some, 0-4 last year when they turned the ball over 3+ times. I think that it'll be a really easy job for him. They added Jalen Conyers at tight end as well. They've got a lot of good pieces out of the portal. Defense didn't really hit home runs in the portal, but I think it'll be a good enough unit. They're going to be really good at safety, actually. I have Tech actually winning the Big 12 conference, winning 10 games, making the college football playoff here. Cactus people, if we got anybody watching, I'm not trying to pump sunshine. I just think that with the offensive line you have, and as good as Tosh Brooks is, the tight ends, you have two tight ends. You have Tharp and then Conyers now. You can do a lot of things with personnel, a lot of things with scheme. And I really like where Tech's at. It wouldn't hurt my feelings if you went 5-7 or anything. But I will say I like your chances in that conference because of the schedule. It's pretty favorable. You duck Utah, you duck Kansas State. You get a bye week before you go to Stillwater and play Oklahoma State. So, Big 12 started off a fun one, Gage. I like that. I've got Texas Tech taking out Oklahoma State in the Big 12 final. Felt really weird to say all of that.
Yeah, I think the Big 12, man, I mean, like we talked about, it's going to be a bloodbath. So, like, at the end of the day, I mean, we could all be wrong pretty easily in the Big 12. And you went with a smarter pick. The two best running backs probably in the Big 12 between Oklahoma State and Texas Tech. Also, Tech has Micah Hudson coming in, and I know a lot of Texas fans don't like to talk about the Micah Hudson thing, but he's going to be really, really good.
I didn't even mention his name because of that. It kind of hurts a little
bit. Yeah, so Micah Hudson's going to be really, really good at Texas Tech. I think the thing about the Big 12 is it's changed throughout so many years. It's not like the old style anymore of like 72, 69, Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield. They love to run the ball, and they got a lot of run game, and it's going to be wild, man. It's going to be a lot of close games. Like, I don't think there's anybody in that conference other than, I don't know, maybe Houston. There's nobody in that conference that I don't think can have a legit shot at winning that conference. So it's going to be really interesting.
I do agree with the comment that we're kind of sleeping on Kansas. I think Kansas will be pretty good too. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I don't want to say that out loud, but I think that's pretty good.
I'm closet Kansas fan. If anything, I got called a closet Tech fan already. But no, if anything in that conference, I like the Kansas schools a lot. Kansas State, even Oklahoma State, a good deal. Jalen Daniels is one of my favorite players in college ball. He's a blast to watch. I just think it's going to be madness. I think that you're going to have several teams with 2 or 3 losses. They're going to beat up on each other a little bit. I'm just picking the teams that kind of, I think we're all picking teams that, are going to have to win a tiebreaker or something because there's going to be a lot of parity in the league. Yeah, right. And you're going to have a lot of parity across the board. And, there's legit 5, 6, 7 teams that probably feel they have a shot to win that conference going into opening week. And so the Big 12
I
is going to
think
be a lot of
Kansas
fun.
State too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Kansas State's going to be
too.
Avery Johnson's a hoss. Now, I didn't take Kansas State because of the schedule. I think the schedule kind of works against them a little bit. It's a lot more difficult than Tech's. Oklahoma State's even. I'm a big fan of the Tech schedule. Tech offensive line, Tech schedule. Play a little cleaner football. I mean, it's standard stuff, but they could be pretty dang good. And so we'll see. I know Tech doesn't have a Big 12 championship ever, and so I'm going to get flamed for that by some people. But at the same time, it's not. There's no Nebraska, Texas, Missouri, Oklahoma. I mean, I guess A&M too. They even won one. So I think it's wide open, as do most people. So we'll go to you, Savannah. Of the other 3 big conferences, which conference would you like to go over next?
My personal conference, the ACC, obviously.
There we go.
I mean, the conference I know best, I'd say.
Well, I'm going to let you do what you know. You tell us a little about the ACC. Talk to us about any team you want, what you think about them, how you think they'll do. Go at it.
Hi. I definitely think that the ACC championship, I'm going to get creamed for this for sure. I'm certain. I have it either being NC State versus Florida State or NC State versus Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech, people have been talking about them a little bit, but I think that people are still sleeping on them. They didn't send any players to the draft last year. They have 30 returners that are starters. That number might be wrong. It might be closer to 28, but that's a solid unit of starting returners, in my opinion. So that's hard to beat. That's some chemistry. That's hard to beat. Pains me to say it. I was a Virginia fan for literally 8 years, so it's hard to say that I think Tech will be great. But I think they will. Blacksburg's a tough place to play. They have a decent schedule. But obviously, NC State, I think they'll be great. I think they'll be top 12 the whole offseason. They've just been 12 everything. All you have to be is one of the best 12, so everything's in 12s. And I think you are what you practice repeatedly, so I think that will help them. I obviously think Grayson McCall is amazing. I obviously think the offensive line's going to be amazing, but I don't have a choice to say anything other than that. People are sleeping on them. I saw they were ranked 8th by somebody, and I was about to go off. I was what are you guys talking about? But no,
8th in the conference?
No, the offensive line. I was
8th in the conference, though?
Yes. This feels like clickbait. No, it's okay. I'm always down to be the underdog. The school across the town, they have a good running back, I guess. I'll throw it in there. I hate to give him any clout, but he's pretty good. And then let's see what else about the ACC. Clemson will be fine, I think. I think one of our toughest games is at Clemson. That's a tough environment to play in. Their quarterback situation is interesting. The not taking people from the portal thing is interesting. I think that does them all the disservice. But yeah, my ACC champs are NC State. I have no other way to say it. Go Pack. But yeah, against Florida State or Virginia Tech for sure. I think Virginia Tech will be really.
Do you think that Mike Norvell and Florida State? Last year, obviously, a lot of crazy things happened in late November, December for those guys. And then you have the bowl game play out the way that it did, in which, you don't give much credit to that score, seeing how that wasn't their full team. But what are your thoughts on Florida State? What do you think? How do you think they recover from what went down? Some programs, that's going to motivate them big time. They're going to use it as a springboard into the next season. It's going to really propel them. They're going to have, they're going to have a pissed off attitude about it, and they're going to go take it out on their opponents. And some teams, they're going to let it bother them enough to where it changes the way that they practice. And they almost, you feel sorry for themselves. And I'm not saying that's the case with Florida State. I'm just curious what your thoughts are. And do you think that they come back and have a year similar to what they did last year?
I think it's going to be hard to duplicate. I think Norvell is a great coach. I don't think he'll let that be the type of thing that gets them down. But I do think replicating, they went 12-0 before 13-0, 12-0, 13. Sorry, I don't remember. 13, yeah. That's crazy. That's kind of unheard of, especially I feel like in the ACC, it's always been Clemson and then one other team. So I don't think it's they'll be able to duplicate it, but I don't think they'll be bad. I don't think they'll be bottom dwellers of the ACC this year for sure. I think they lost too much talent as well to really
Lost them.
contend for it. I mean, I know they have some experience in their quarterback and stuff, but I think you need to have a better offensive line, defensive line. You win games in the trenches, and I just don't think that they have that. Not that it's horrible. I just don't think it's as good as it needs to be to win championship.
Probably somewhere, if you're saying they don't contend for the ACC, somewhere probably 8 to 9 range as far as wins go.
Yeah, I'd say 8 to 9 for sure. Their schedule, they miss a lot of the hard teams, I guess. Probably the harder one. They have some harder ones, but we don't play them. I know they don't play. I don't think they do play Virginia Tech. That'll be tough, but I think it's home. So, yeah, I think 8 to 9 wins.
Okay, I like it. Just curious on those thoughts. What about you, Gage? Let's go to your thoughts on the old ACC. Any sleeper teams? Anyone you think takes a big slide from last year to this year? Who you got winning it?
I think I went Miami versus NC State, and I have Miami winning it. So I do like NC State. I like Grace McCall. Obviously, they got probably, in my mind, going to be the best receiver in the country, top receiver in the country, and I hope I don't butcher his name. Concepcion.
Casey. Yeah.
Is that how you? Okay. Yeah. I was like, man, I'm gonna butcher this dude's name, but so they're going to be really good. I think they have a easier schedule in the ACC. I think a lot of the ACC also it just goes back to schedule, who sees who. I do like Virginia Tech, and I think that NC State missing Virginia Tech is a huge one. They don't have to play Florida State. They don't have to play Miami. The only game they have is the beginning of the schedule where they have to play at Clemson. And I just don't know. Like Clemson, I think talent level is probably the best, but I just don't have that feel about Clemson that I'm just like, oh, they're going to go out and do what they did the previous years. Like it just kind of feels like they're just going to be, I don't know, 8, 9 wins and kind of flutter along. So
back to being Clemson of old.
Right. So it's like NC State, other than the Clemson game, I just don't really see a game where I'm like too nervous for them.
I feel like there's 2 trap games at Cal and at Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I mean there's trap games for everybody, but I just like I think schedule wise it just sets up for them. Florida State, we saw what happened to them when they lost their quarterback. I don't know, it was Georgia, but it obviously makes a big difference. And I mean they bring in DJ, but it's just like I don't know. We saw what DJ did in the ACC the last time he was around, and that's why he left. And now that he's back, we'll see if he can be the talent that everybody thought he was going to be. And then Miami, like Miami's got talent at all levels. They're bringing in Cam Ward, who I really like. I think that they have a favorable schedule, and I just think that there's just something different about this Miami team than there has been past. And I really do think it leads back to Cam Ward. I know people don't think that Cam Ward's good. Or like a top transfer or whatever, but I'm pretty sure Ohio State was gunning for Cam Ward. So, yeah, I'm super excited for the ACC this year. I think it's going to be a fun year. I think the transfers that are coming in at quarterback are going to be like super interesting because you've got like 3 of the top teams have transfers in. I think my sleeper team though from the ACC would definitely be Virginia Tech. Like they just have so much talent coming back, and they get Clemson at home, and it's going to be really interesting to see how that folds out over there.
I agree, man. All the conferences, because obviously they're adding more and more quality programs and teams to them. The games are becoming more competitive. There's more parity, and everything's going to be a lot more tight and more open. I did not choose North Carolina State to make it to Charlotte. I apologize. I don't want you. I know Gage will forgive me. Savannah, I hope that you one day along down the line, we'll get over this. I have Clemson winning the ACC this year because I don't think there's any chance that they do. I'm going completely against my gut. I think that they're the same thing as you, Gage. I think it's time to fall off. 8, 9 wins. It's time. Their run is over. They're not the 1B to Alabama's 1A anymore. Dabo's lost the fastball. I mean, that's just what it feels like. I'm not trying to knock the program. That's just what it feels like. And so this is where they go and they have a statement year and they throw it in my eye and they go and win the conference because the schedule is really not that bad. They do have a tough North Carolina State team coming to town. Offense has to get a lot more explosive. I mean, it can't get less explosive. Need more playmakers at wide receiver. Will Shipley's gone, but I do like the backs that they have. It's on Cade Klubnik. I mean, how big of a jump does he make? Dabo's got to have like one more, something left in the tank, right? Like one more run, one more big push. And so this is the conference where I struggled the most. And I went with a team that I probably thought had the fourth or fifth best chance, but they had the talent and I'm not going to question they don't go to the portal as Savannah said, but I'm not going to question their development over there. And the defensive talent is still going to be young. They'll have a young linebacker group, but Barrett Carter is probably top 3-5 linebacker in the country, if not better than that. They've lost a ton on the defensive line, but they're replacing them with some really big athletic cats. And once again, that's where I'm going to give Dabo's development skills the benefit of the doubt. So it feels like kind of like I'm picking an underdog and picking Clemson, but I'm going to take Clemson. I won't mention who I have them beating because I'm going to save that for our playoff reveal when we do that, and I'll go more in depth on them. So it feels dirty to say, but give me Clemson in the ACC. I think it'll be a really, really tight race. It was a conference where I was going down, and almost every single team that I'm choosing and going through the schedules, I have it like 9-3 or 10-2, and so I could be way, 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 way off.
Yeah, I think the ACC is gonna be kind of tough too. And going back to Cade, I mean, like we know Cade, right? He's a Westlake kid. He's from Austin, so it's like, is he gonna take that extra jump? And I don't know. I just haven't seen anything that says he's going to yet. But
Bryant Westco should help a little bit. I mean, that's a kid that's going to go probably play pretty quickly in Clemson, if not immediately. Tyler Brown had over 50 catches last year. What's the tight end's name? Good player, one of the better tight ends in the AC. Burnington. God, why am I struggling with that? But yeah, I mean, the talent's there, but I mean, like that offense is just so lackluster, and there's just not a lot of excitement to it. And so if they're going to do anything, they're going to have to start breaking off some bigger plays. Run game hasn't been bad, but they'll be a little bit better there. I think without Shipley, to be honest.
Yeah, Brenning Stool.
This guy's so fat, man. Speaking of that, get us to 300 subscribers on the channel, and me and this gentleman right here and another Aggie will have a little burger eating competition live. So if you're watching on Twitter, which I just added Twitter to the live, go to the link in my bio. It'll take you to the channel, and subscribe here. Like the video, please. It costs you nothing to do so, and you get to hear 2 hours of us talking about picking Texas Tech in the Big 12 and Clemson in the ACC. I'm off to a rough start here when I think about it. All right, I like what y'all have done so far, but all right. So we've got Big 10 and SEC left. Where do you want to go next, Gage?
We'll go to the Big 10. We'll save the SEC because I think the SEC is probably going to be a little wild. But I saw in the Big 10, I've got Oregon and Ohio State playing, and I've got Oregon winning.
Do you think anyone else has a chance to reach Indianapolis outside of those two schools?
It's like, I don't know, man, because it's like, all right, so you look at Michigan, and they've obviously they've got just so much going on, period. That's like you can't even dive into their roster without just like all the other stuff just popping up. Like, how are they going to handle this situation? You know what I'm saying, going into this year. And I just don't know. And like, obviously losing their quarterback, and they've lost other talent, but they're going to have a good running game. I mean, we go there at week 2, and so we're going to get a firsthand close view of what Michigan's going to look like this year. But and then you go like Penn State, and it's just I'm just not a Penn State until Penn State does it. Like, I think the expanded playoff helps Penn State, but until Penn State does it, I'm just not going to believe in them, and it's just hard for me to do that. And I just think that Oregon, they have the quarterback, they have talent everywhere else. I like Dan Lanning. I know that I'm on this roll of picking first person our first team in the conference to win a championship. But and yeah, Matt, I do believe that Nebraska will maybe win a bowl game. Maybe they'll maybe get to a bowl game. They might win 6 games.
Can Nebraska make it to a man? If I'd have known Matt was going to be in here, I would have broke that whole schedule down. We would have fun with that. And then told him he was going 5-7. But love you, Matt. You're great. No, I agree with you, man. It's tough, looking at Penn State. We'll get into that, my opinion on them a little bit more. But I mean, I don't blame anyone for having those thoughts on them. Savannah, where are you at with the Big Ten? I know we've talked a little about your sleeper team in the Big Ten.
Oh yeah. No, I have to eat my words from earlier about first-time teams not winning their conference because I think I just don't want Utah to win the Big 12 is what it really boils down to. Because then I was like, oh, I picked 2 new teams for the other 2. So
Yeah.
Everything Gage said, I think it'll be Oregon and Ohio State. I can't root for Ohio State. I guess I could. I mean, I kind of hope they win just to like shake things up a little, to just like be controversial. But I have Oregon winning. My sleeper team's Michigan State. I love Michigan State. I love their head coach. I'm bummed that he had to leave Oregon State because of the circumstances. But
Absolutely.
The way that he turned around that program in like 2 years is crazy. Oregon State was like a dumpster fire program, and he turned it around quick. So I think he has a good staff around him. I think Michigan State has like some things they need to work on and come back from, different than Michigan, but same type of like not on the field related stuff. But as a Michigan State fan, obviously I can't root for Michigan, and I hope that they just go 4-8 this season. I hope it all goes poorly, but I do think that Nebraska, and I hope that Nebraska gets a bowl game. I love Nebraska. It's a great game day experience. So
those fans deserve a bowl game. I mean, yes. At minimum, they probably deserve a lot more than that, but it's been rough. I love Aiden Childs. I love Jonathan Smith. Michigan State they're an easy team to like this fall for sure. You could tell, I think given the circumstances, Jonathan Smith probably would have stayed at Oregon State for a good while. I don't know. It seems like a genuine cat. He's going to build a program up. And so, I mean, I know East Lansing folks, they got to be really, really excited to get that whole campaign and tenure kicked off. As far as a sleeper team in the Big Ten, I don't want to really call them a sleeper. I got just roasted the other day for saying this on the channel, but I like Rutgers. I think Rutgers is going to overachieve this year. I like Graciano. I like their defense. I'm not saying they're going to win the conference. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, as far as teams in the conference who could overachieve the most, I like their opportunity and their upside. I think Washington goes over there. Brandy, if you're watching by chance, we pretty much stamped it. Rutgers is at minimum going to cover in that game. We like them to win that game. We don't even know if there was a spread, but we made one up, and it was +4, and we're riding with Rutgers and on the money line too. But I like Rutgers to have a good year. I think that that'll be fun. Actually, I think they even go to USC, so that'll be a hell of a road trip. But I'm hoping that they back me up a little bit. As far overall as a conference, make it a clean sweep. I also have Oregon taking out Ohio State.
So we know it's not going to happen for sure.
Yeah, no. Right. Yeah, now it feels like if those 2 play, Ohio State wins that game, or there's some crazy turn of events to where one of those 2 don't make it. It definitely seems like those are 2 and just easily clear front runners by a large margin. I mean, we don't know what Michigan will look like. We know that we have an idea of what Penn State will look like, and it's not going to look like Oregon or Ohio State. I don't really think outside of that. I mean, like Michigan State, they could easily go off and have a 9 or 10 win season. It's just you go win the games you're supposed to, take care of Michigan, which is probably a game that they can win this year. I'm saying that I need to worry about us getting over there and playing them first. I'm going to start dogging on Michigan, and they're going to take care of us. But overall, I like Oregon. I like Dan Lanning. I like Dylan Gabriel. The defense is going to be good. They're going to be very versatile. They're going to have a billion different sets they can throw at you. Tight ends, running backs out of the backfield. Running game will be good. I think they're going to have a pretty easy time getting to that conference championship game, and then it's a matter of taking care of Ohio State. But I like Dylan Gabriel with the game on the line a little more than Will Howard. So give me the Ducks for now.
Anybody? I think that was. Go ahead.
No, I go right ahead.
I think that was a big thing on Ohio State. I'll talk more about Ohio State later, but
Okay,
I have
no,
no
you're
faith
good.
in Will Howard.
Yeah.
No faith. So
I'm torn, man. I do think that the talent around him, should obviously lift his play a little bit. The defense is going to be really, really, really good. So it's like, it's like not playing college football 25 and knocking it down from All American to varsity level or whatever's next.
yeah,
It'll be a little easier for him than what he was dealing with at Kansas State. Not to knock the Wildcats, he did a good job there, and Kansas State's a great program. But I guess we just have the SEC left as far as the Big Four conferences. Miss Savannah, I'll let you go first. Tell me all your thoughts. SEC. We'll probably talk a little more about this one since this is now the home conference, and even for you too, Miss Half Savannah. You're half Longhorn, half. We'll do a third.
Absolutely.
We'll go a
I
third
will be
Longhorn.
perfect. That works. I will be at the Georgia Texas game, cheering for Texas in my burnt orange. It's my
Let's
color.
go.
So yeah, no, definitely Texas. Again, I have the team that's entering
yeah.
their conference, winning the conference. So I guess it was just like personal hatred for Utah. So
Yeah.
I apologize. Yeah, I think Texas will take it. I feel like that's a hot take. I feel like people are gonna hate me for that one. I just can't believe that there a three-peat happens. And I know everyone's like tired of hearing it, but I do think that there really is some culture issues at Georgia. I'm not hating on the program. I think they're great. I just think that those type of things, when they come to light, like need to get under control before you can win another championship. Or we just got thugs and we're Florida 2008 and we're gonna win it again. That's probably what will end up happening.
It's one of the two.
Yeah, one of the two. I think Alabama will always be good. Like, I think they're good. I love their head coach. I love that he came from Washington. I love their offensive line coach. Shout out to him. Coach Cap's my favorite offensive line coach besides my dad. So I think they'll be great, but I don't think they'll be like top four great. So top four for the college football playoff. I think they'll probably sit like 2 or 3 in their conference. They'll win one of their big games, but lose the other. So I think I have Georgia and Texas playing for the title. I have Texas winning, and yeah, that's what I'll say about Georgia. That's what I'll say about the SEC.
Well, Hook'em Savannah, I would be pretty pleased with that outcome. You were gonna get invited back on the channel regardless of that pick, so I'm hoping you didn't do that just for that reason. You were always coming back, but no, I do like our chances in the SEC. I'll let Gage go first. Gage, how are you? How you feeling about it all, man? Talk to me. I'm gonna have a couple questions after you go about a couple other teams, but just tell me your first thoughts on the old Southeastern Conference.
So I just want to start it off with that I did not pick Texas. I'll talk more about why I didn't pick Texas later. But it's more of I think it's more of opposite jinx than it is anything. Like I'm just trying to stay away from that. But I did pick two pretty good teams. I picked Georgia and Ole Miss. I picked Georgia to win. I think that Savannah, you're right. I think that Georgia's run is coming to an end. I just don't think it's going to be this year. I think that Carson Beck coming back, I really like Carson Beck. I haven't talked much about how much I like Carson Beck, but he's very good. And I think that they're mad about what happened last year. And I think that they're going to rebound in full force. I really like Georgia. I think that they probably feel like they also got slided with their schedule because their schedule is really tough. But how many times have we said that about Georgia, that their schedule's tough and then they just roll through it? So Ole Miss, I picked them. I like the talent, obviously. I like the transfers they brought in. Really, Ole Miss is more of a schedule thing. I just think that they have like 2 weeks really where they play Oklahoma and they play LSU and they have to go to Baton Rouge. I'm not a big believer in LSU this year. I think they'll do fine. Like I just don't think that they're going to be as good as they normally are. I mean, if you waste what Jaden Daniels did last year, what makes me think you're going to just turn it around this year with somebody else? So, and then obviously they got OU at home, and I don't think OU is going to take this huge drop off like a lot of other people. I'm not going to say they're going to win 4 games or 5 games, but I think that that's going to be a tough road trip for Oklahoma, and I think that Ole Miss has got talent to back it up. So really, the only tough game they have is the Georgia at home, and I think they should be able to take care of the rest of their schedule. I mean, it's SEC, so they'll probably lose like 5 games in reality, but yeah, that's why I picked Ole Miss. I feel like they have a good schedule, a good run at the schedule. I like the talent that they brought in and stuff like that. And Lane Kiffin's hilarious, so I wouldn't mind seeing it. So yeah, that's what I went with there.
Yeah, I think you know, I'm a pretty big Kiffin fan myself.
Yeah.
Obviously, the way he kind of went at Jimbo won a lot of Longhorns over, and then he beat
Yeah.
Aggies multiple times in a row. So I mean, I wasn't like his biggest advocate or anything before that, but now I'm this guy's awesome. I root for Ole Miss almost every Saturday strictly because of that guy. But you know, I like both of it, guys. I think that you know, if Savannah's right and Texas wins the SEC, there's a lot of reasons as to why that makes sense. And if that was to be our reality, you know, sitting here right now, it wouldn't shock me too much just from knowing what we know about our team and the talent on our team. And then the schedule helps a little bit. Still not as easy as people want to say it is. And then Gage, you saying Georgia, man. I mean, yeah, not getting in the playoff last year because they dropped that game to Bama, you know, kind of similar to what we talked about earlier. It can either, you know, it can cause a lull with your team and, you know, you don't work as hard. You have a lot of off-season distractions and maybe even get in some trouble. And the next thing you know, you're dropping games you shouldn't. Or, you know, you're so much better than everybody else. You recruit so good. You're so good in the trenches that none of that mess doesn't matter. And then you go out there, you play bully ball and walk through teams, you know, kind of like Savannah mentioned with 2008 Florida. They were just, I mean, it didn't matter what was going on, you know, off the field. They were just so good on the field. And so, is it one of those things? You know, there is a lot of talent around the SEC, obviously, and Georgia does have to play Texas. They do have to play Alabama. They get Tennessee. They get Ole Miss.
They got a rough
obviously,
schedule.
You got Clemson early in the year, and I am not of the opinion. Like, I know the spread's like what's it, 14? Like, it's a pretty decent sized spread. Like, I'm not of the opinion that just Georgia just walks through that game. I think that's a huge game for the Clemson program to kind of show their back. It makes no sense for me to say that Clemson would play close. Yeah, I don't believe it, but that's just one of those things I talked about earlier, kind of going against my gut on that call. But yeah, Georgia's schedule's tough. I also have Georgia missing in the SEC championship game. I do not have Texas winning it. I have Alabama beating Texas. A lot of concerns with Alabama. He lost a lot in the secondary there. But at the same time, you have Jalen Milroe back at quarterback. And I think Jalen Milroe back at quarterback is going to be a massive thing for Alabama. When you're talking, you know, you look back at the SEC championship game and Jalen Milroe with his ball in the hands, and then Carson Beck in the ball with his hands. Just more times than not, I'm gonna put my money on Jalen's side because he's very dynamic, and then I'm gonna assume that he takes another big step as a quarterback like he did from 2022 to 2023, which obviously wasn't the starter in 2022. But development-wise, you know, he made strides, and he made strides along the season last year as a passer. He throws a terrific deep ball. There's a lot of things he does well. Obviously, a great runner and can run hard. And so with the ground game and you having to be aware of what he can do as far as taking the top off of the defense and then also accounting for his legs, that naturally will create more space in the running game for the backs at Alabama. But, yeah, on defense, it's like, you know, it's not a Nick Saban defense anymore. What do they look like? And then they had massive departure in the secondary. They did add some pieces. And so when I think about it, I'm like, you know, if Texas makes it against Alabama, you know, we're going to be able to throw the ball pretty well this year. We're going to have to probably lean on the passing game pretty hard. But I can't just – I'm like you, Gage. I can't pick Texas to win the SEC in the first year. And KDV, you know, Coach DeBoer is 2-0 against Sark the last 2 years. And so you know what? I'm going to put all the bad juju on Alabama, try to jinx them and curse them. And we'll ride that. So I have Alabama beating Texas in the SEC title game. I have Georgia, you know, taking a couple of L's in there. But this was another thing. You know, I went through this conference and it was like 11-1, 11-1, 11-1, 10-2, 10-2, 10-2. Could be way off. Maybe get 1 of 2. I'd be happy with 1 of 2 as long as it's the burn orange one that we got right. But I don't know. We got Texas in 2 of the 3 games. We got Texas beating Georgia in Savannah's SEC title game. We have Georgia beating Ole Miss in Gage's SEC title game. And I have Alabama taking out the Longhorns, hopefully hopefully we get there and can prove myself wrong on that. But all right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to show you our conference championship picks right here. All right, if y'all missed early on in the Big 12, Gage has Utah right there. Drop in the comments how you feel about these. We got Gage with Utah Utes in the Big 12. Ghost is this is a typo. Someone put Texas Tech in there for me. I don't know where that came from. And Miss Savannah has Oklahoma State, trusting Mike Gundy, trusting Ollie Gordon there. Probably one of the more underrated programs in all the country. So then you move up go down to the ACC. We kind of got it blocked off there, but Mr. Gage has Cam Ward in Miami. Cam Ward, I think, has a chance to be one of the better players in all of the ACC. I took Clemson, a rebound year, a statement year for Dabo Swinney and the Tigers, and Miss Savannah, and a little bit of a surprise, took North Carolina State. Real quick before we move on, I want to give you the chance right here, Miss Savannah. What do you think about the North Carolina Tar Heels and their chances at a season or a decent season on the football field?
The nicest thing I can say about the North Carolina Tar Heels would be, can't wait to see their stadium, Keenan Memorial, full on Thanksgiving weekend, rivalry week, full of red, because that's the only week that it's ever full.
Oh, there we go. I love it. It hurts a little bit. Gosh, it's okay though. It'll be a great game. Y'all will be playing for a lot right there. I like your chances of going in there and getting a W on Thanksgiving weekend for sure. So there's all of our conference championship picks. Tell us how you feel about them. I took a lot of convincing for me to get to Texas Tech, but I'm trusting in that O-line. I'm trusting in Joey McGuire. Barrett Morton's season is upon us. Don't make me regret that, Cactus folks. I'm putting my faith in you and showing this in front of 154 people on live that I'm trusting in you to win the conference for the first time in your existence. But anyways, let's move on. We are going to discuss our Heisman picks. Before we do that, we'll go back here. Mr. Gage, talk to me first. Talk to me a little about a sleeper pick. Talk to me about your overall Heisman pick. As many sleepers as you want, man. Go right ahead.
All right. So my biggest sleeper, I kind of talked to him about him earlier. I mean, I have his team winning the conference is Cam Ward. I really like Cam Ward. I really liked watching him last year. Obviously, you have to stay up super late to watch him when he was at Washington State. Don't have to do that anymore. So I'm super excited to see what he can do at Miami. I really think this dude, he's got the juice, right? So I'm pumped for Cam Ward. I think that I've seen some highlight tapes of him throughout the offseason, and he looks like he's ready to roll, and like he's there mentally, like he's there physically. So I'm super pumped to see Cam Ward. Other sleepers, I do like Taj Brooks at Tech. Obviously, so we saw both of those running backs. Like, I was going back to him and Ollie Gordon at the end of the season. Obviously, you know, I was at the Big 12 championship game, so I got a little beef with Ollie Gordon. But Taj Brooks is a dog. Like, there's no other way to explain him. Like, he's a dog, and he's built, and he's gonna run hard. And I really like Taj Brooks. I think he's got a shot. I like Miller Moss at USC. That was kind of
that's a good pick. Or fun pick.
I wanted to talk a little bit more about USC. They're kind of my sleeper in the Big Ten. I like Miller Moss. I know that hopefully we don't got any OU fans in the comments because they might kill me here. But
you think that defense, obviously, you're calling them a sleeper in the Big Ten, that you think the defense improves a good bit?
Yeah, I think they're going to have a tough time. I think it's going to be a tough time for USC. But I like Miller Moss. I think he's going to throw a bunch, obviously, in that offense. So he's kind of my other sleeper. But my pick is Carson Beck. I just think that they're going to be on national television every single week. Big game after big game after big game after big game. He's going to have plenty of opportunities to go out there and prove who he is. Obviously, I think Georgia's a very good football team, and so he's got a lot around him too. So yeah, I I really like Carson Beck. I think that he's probably the best quarterback in the country. He's probably going to be a top 3 pick in the NFL draft, and I'm just going to roll with the top guy here, and I'm just going to go Carson Beck because I just think he's going to get it done this year.
I mean, if Georgia is going to get back to Atlanta and then obviously make a run in the playoffs, I mean, they're going to have to do it by Carson Beck at times. Run game's going to be good, but quarterback's got to make plays. Obviously,
I like Grayson McCall too. I do like Grayson McCall too. I do like him. I don't think he's going to win it, but I do like Grayson McCall.
Yeah.
What about you, Mister?
What?
I was going to say, what about you? What are you thinking? Sleeper Heisman picks? Go for it.
He's obviously my sleeper Heisman pick. I mean, if you go 12-0 and make it to the obviously NC State feels like NC State benefit from the expansion of the playoffs. So as I'm sure you know, I'm pro expansion. But yeah, I think if we make it to the playoffs and we do well during the season, he's definitely a sleeper of an option. My favorite for the Heisman is Ollie Gordon, but that is just because I was telling Ghost this, like, Reggie Bush got his Heisman back. It's giving this year a running back has to win it. It's just something inside me is telling me that that's just the way it has to go. I feel like it's been too many quarterbacks, too many years in a row. Don't get me wrong. That's not to like undermine any of them. I think they're all incredible and deserve the awards that they won for the most part. But I think it goes back to your running back this year. He won the Doak Walker Award last year for rushing over 1,600 yards or around 1,600 yards. I think it's definitely his to lose. He has a good offensive line starting with him. So hopefully he rushes for 2,000 this year. Wins it.
I mean, it would be really cool. We have been on such a quarterback run. I can't remember who's the last running back that won the Heisman. Anybody know? Y'all know? Anyone in the chat know?
I know it. Derrick Henry.
Yes.
It was probably Derrick Henry.
Holy cow.
Wait,
I think it was Derrick Henry last.
Saquon didn't win, right?
No,
ma'am.
Yeah. Then it was Derrick Henry.
Yeah. Which he had an unreal year that year. Yeah. So that's the type of year you have to have. It was him and Christian. Man. That was it. That was a crazy year. I mean, you had 2 running backs that were both deserved to win the Heisman that year. Like you put them any other year in the last, what year was that? 17? Any other year since then, either of them might have won the Heisman. So that's how good a year both of them had. I mean, Christian broke the Barry Sanders record for all-purpose yards that year.
All-purpose yards, yep. Yeah. But they were a lot of fun to watch that year, man.
That was a fun year.
And now all I can do is think about the guy at the Rose Bowl screaming Heisman behind Christian McCaffrey during the interview after the Iowa game. I mean, what a guy, man. I hope he did that as like just almost like trolling, knowing what he was doing, and he wasn't really just like all the Heisman voters in the background, were like, "Oh my God, look at this guy just convinced me." He convinced me. I'm giving it to Christian. But yeah, what a fun year, man! Absolutely. So, who's your overall Heisman winning pick, Savannah?
Ollie.
Ollie's right. Okay, that's right.
With it. Yeah.
All right. So we got Ollie Gordon, and then we've got Carson Beck. We've got some fun sleepers. I think Cam Ward could be a big time sleeper, like Gage talked about a little bit. I do think at the end of the year he can make a strong case for the best player in the ACC. But I definitely understand if anyone's skeptical on any type of Miami hype. Similar to Texas hype, before last year, at least. But there's some fun players out there, man. My biggest sleeper, and it's not even really a sleeper anymore, but Jalen Daniels. I think, Justin in the comments said earlier we're sleeping on Kansas. Definitely not sleeping on Kansas whatsoever. They were one of the teams I lumped in there. I told you in the Big 12 I kind of had it 10-2, and just losing a weird tiebreaker. And I don't know. We took Tech and Oklahoma State over them, but I think that Jalen's going to be good. Devin Nill's going to be good. Fantastic coach. I think that Kansas obviously is on the rise and they have a chance to win that conference. I'd say almost as good as Kansas State. They're going to be pretty dang good. Jalen Daniels is a fun one. Quinn's not a sleeper by any means, but I think that he would be a very smart ticket. I think that with the offense that we're going to have to use and not wanting to overuse our running backs because we have limited running backs, and you do want to have a healthy Jaden Blue come mid-October and then late November. you do want to have trade wise and you're still being a part of the offense, and injuries are going to happen. But I think my point is that we're going to use Quinn a ton, and we're going to use these receivers that we have because we have a ton of options and we don't have to have a short rotation at wide receiver anymore. We can, roll out 6 or 7 guys now that will all contribute and that possibly all deserve to start. I mean, depending on the day. But so with that all being said, my overall Heisman winner after naming a few sleepers and then thinking there's a lot of value on Quinn. Overall, I'm going. I told you I'm riding Alabama in the SEC. I'm going back to JM4. Jalen Milroe is going to get it done. I think he has a massive year, similar to Texas. They're going to have to rely on him a lot. He's going to pick up some easier yards through the ground or on the ground, and then he's going to score a few more times on the ground than Quinn will. He won't probably have the passing accolades that Quinn does, but I like Jalen Milroe. I like Kalen DeBoer. I think that it could be a special year with those two together. All DeBoer does is win. So is Dylan Gabriel, would y'all classify him as a sleeper for the Heisman?
No, he was one of my guys I was going back and forth with Carson. I think those are the top 2 guys odds wise. And I think what's funny too is we don't classify Quinn as a sleeper, but I'm pretty sure his odds Vegas wise are probably the same as Cam Ward's.
I like Mr. Brand's point right here. This is Running Man's a great follow if you guys don't follow him, but Dylan Gabriel's a great player, and I can say that a lot louder. Yeah. And now that he's gone and away from Oklahoma, but now I've been a Tech fan today. I've been a Bama fan. I need these guys to make their minds up.
And Sam, I think Avery Johnson was of course I wanted to just choose Avery Johnson because we know what he's capable of, but at the same time, that's such a chalk sleeper pick because I feel like that's all everybody talks about, especially in our universe, the Big 12. Because we're just coming out of Big 12, so we got a bunch of Big 12 people, and they're all Avery Johnson, Avery Johnson, Avery Johnson. So it's I mean, is he a sleeper? But that's all everybody talks about. That's the number 1 sleeper pick. I feel like
they're just saying that because it's at Kansas State. He can certainly have a massive year. I guess, if you're thinking about it, it would be a pretty big surprise in the end of the year if Avery Johnson was the Heisman Trophy winner. I think, overall, the national media would have pretty surprised reaction.
It'd be shocking, yeah. But for us, it's that's all everybody talks about, is Avery Johnson is the sleeper, so.
Let me ask you this. This will be a fun question, or I'm hoping it will be a fun question. You can't choose someone on your own team. So Savannah, we got to knock off Virginia, North Carolina State, Texas, BYU.
BYU and NC State.
Okay, you can't choose a player from your own school.
Okay.
You can handpick a player that's not from your own school or schools to win the Heisman. So this is almost as a who is your favorite player that's not on your own team type situation. But if you can handpick one player, maybe you just think they really deserve it and you like watching. But one player to win the Heisman that's not from your rooting school, who are you choosing? Take your time, no rush. I'm trying to think about mine too. My snap reaction is Jalen Daniels because I love his game, but there might be another guy out there.
I'm going Cam Ward. I'm gonna say it over and over again. I'm going Cam Ward.
Is that just like a? Yeah, it was a lot of fun at Houston, man. No doubt. Somebody. There's no one at any of the Texas schools. I guess, honestly, I get laughed at, but if I get to hand pick it and he's guaranteed to win the Heisman, I'm going to choose Malik Murphy. Take Malik. Yeah. How cool Duke football wins the Heisman?
Yeah, you set.
Sorry,
us up
Savannah.
That one, bro. You set us up. You've been thinking about that all day. You were like,
no, I promise, man. I was sitting here really. I just said I thought it was Jalen Daniels.
I would love to see. I would love to see Malik Woodland. I'm just not sure about the rest of Duke. So
yeah,
and I'm not sure about the coaching change. I think they're gonna have some struggles.
I agree. Okay, well, so we've made our Heisman picks. And our official Heisman picks are all posted right here. And then the sleepers. Surprise, surprise, Savannah. She's trusting in the Wolfpack this year. And to be honest, Gage has faith in the Wolfpack. I had the Wolfpack at 9-3.
What do you have our losses being?
Oh, no. The vibes are high in Raleigh. It's definitely not North Carolina. I definitely no. I'm kidding. I didn't put North Carolina on there.
I had them
I
losing to Clemson in Tennessee.
I had both of those losses, and what was the third? Because I had Clemson winning the conference.
The rest of their schedule is like, I mean,
it's not too bad, but
Georgia Tech, baby.
That's the third one. Okay, and Savannah, before you get upset, I love Coach Key at Georgia Tech. I think they are going to beat a team or two that national pundits will say they probably shouldn't. I'm really high on old Georgia Tech. I think he's a great coach. They're lucky to have him while they have him.
Do you think they're going to win tomorrow?
No.
Hell yeah. Or heck yeah. I don't know if that's
you can
allowed.
Say what you can. We've had much worse conversations held on here. I'll send you some clips. My goodness. But we got NC State is going 8-4 here. I don't know, Sam. I'm not sure that I can agree with you, man. That schedule, like Gage just says, pretty easy. And if they were to even win the Tennessee game or the Clemson game, the path to 10 wins becomes and they're a good club, man.
Just gotta win one of those.
This is the same guy who said Mac Brown owns NC State. I didn't. And all I know is that how long has Mac Brown been at NC State? I think like 5 years. I don't know. We're on a 3-game win streak. So
we got a great point being made right here.
Yep.
North Carolina State bye week
has the bye before Georgia Tech, which is why I was like, oh yeah, I think they'll win that game.
The trap game for me is Cal, just because we got to go to Cal, and that's a long haul flight, and
that's so tough, man.
A tough time change.
Yeah, I think they don't have to go to Virginia Tech. That was the game that I was like looking for. Like, okay, we're gonna trip me up on this North Carolina State theory. It was gonna be the Virginia Tech game, and then it never happened. And I was like, they don't have to play Virginia Tech, Florida State, or Miami. I was like, I mean, that seems pretty good for them. So,
and I might be wrong because I haven't been part of Wolfpack Nation very long, but I think it's the first time in like a really long time that Virginia Tech and NC State haven't played. So it's kind of a bummer game.
It is a bummer.
Especially because I feel like that's two good comparable teams, just like comparable in atmosphere, like ability on the football field. So it is kind of bummer that we don't play this year, but we beat them at home last year. So
Robbie said Jackson Dark or Nico. I'm not even gonna try to say his last name for Tennessee. Those are two good sleepers. I like both those, especially if Ole Miss.
I don't know.
Especially if Ole Miss has a season I think they're gonna have.
I think if they have the season that you're gonna have, that there's a chance that Jackson Dart is a sleeper.
Yeah, definitely. If they have the season I could definitely see him at least getting to New York.
I mean, Gage, you have a lot of trust in Ole Miss this year. I think that we all think they're going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
You don't have any issue, Kiffin, Dart winning a big game. They haven't really done so yet, other than winning at home last year in the Grove against LSU in a game that Cajun people were pretty frustrated with how the last couple of minutes of that game were called. I'll just say that. But as somebody had a little bit of money on Ole Miss, I was pretty happy with the flags that were being thrown. But
I think.
What are your concerns there?
I got their schedule. I think obviously the concerns is that LSU is better than I think they're going to be, and that kind of blows up the entire schedule because they've got to go to Baton Rouge. But I don't. I just like I said, you lose Jalen Daniels had an unbelievable year last year, and you still couldn't. But
capitalize.
I think the big thing is like, can Ole Miss do it right? But the only game that I see on there that I'm like, that's their big game is against Georgia. And no, I don't think they're going to beat Georgia. I think they're going to lose to Georgia. And then it's like, okay, so who else do you have on their schedule? Okay, they have to go to South Carolina. They've got Kentucky at home, which might be a trip up, but I like that game at home. I just maybe OU, but I don't see it happening. I think they've improved defensively with the transfer portal. Losing their running back may hurt, but they didn't really. They throw the ball a lot anyway, so it's gonna. I mean, if Kiffin's gonna get it done, like it's gonna be with this team, and if he doesn't get it done with this team, then when is he ever gonna get it done? At that point, if you're around Ole Miss, you gotta start asking that question.
if Kiffin somehow struggled this year, and I mean, like you said, the schedule's pretty favorable, but there's still some tough games. Like Kentucky's not going to
Yeah.
roll over, and then
No.
you're talking about putting Kentucky in between a couple of tough opponents. So like,
Yeah.
there's some scary games in there. It's the SEC, no doubt.
Yeah.
But if they do go 9-3, obviously anything worse than that, I feel like they'd be a pretty pissed off bunch over there. But I don't know. I feel like if they go 9-3 or worse, but even at 9-3, there's going to be a lot of questions asked. They're going to start to become a little, irritable, frustrated over there.
9-3 would mean you lose probably 2 LSU, and then you lose the Kentucky or Oklahoma game, and then you lose the Georgia game.
Yeah, and losing all 3 of those, you can't lose all 3 of those, I think.
Yeah, not with this team, not with what you did in the transfer portal. I just think this is the year to get it done. And honestly, I have no idea if they're going to. I just liked their scheduled chances. In the SEC is so tough, man. It's like you got Alabama too. It's like we might have 3, 4, 10-2 teams, and they just released the tiebreaker, and I have no idea how that's going to play out. So, giving me 2008 vibes when I saw that tiebreaker, I was like, I don't like this. So, but this time's different because we got 12-team playoffs. So,
yeah, I would have loved to have that in 2008, but here we are.
Yeah,
back when we were, really good. There's 2 teams that get in, and we, we're the third.
Why
or
do we
fourth
always
team
talk about that year? Every time we talk about 2008. I just
it hurts. It still hurts, and we've talked about it on the timeline a couple times today because I asked the silly question: who's the best team to? I was aiming at from 2010 to now, who was the best team to not win a title, and had a lot of people bringing up 2008 Texas, which then inevitably people bring up 2008 Oklahoma, and we're right back in that whole hellhole again.
Yeah,
good times, man.
One play,
but that's
what separates good from great.
What's that?
That's what separates good from great. One play.
Yeah, Michael Crabtree separated us from good.
There was a pretty healthy conversation in the or a little interaction in the comments. Somebody said 2008 Oklahoma, in response to the poll, and I said we were better, with like a wink or something, and he said, "Let's prove it on the." Because we obviously beat them by 10.
Yeah,
so he
beat them by 10 points.
And,
after they had a whole. I mean, it was 14-3. Man, I was nervous.
I mean, we won that game and we beat them by 10. But there was a big moment in that game, I believe, late in the second quarter, where Ryan Lewis, star linebacker for OU, went down. And after that, man, we were already, moving the ball a little bit, but after that, we started moving the ball on the ground some, which really opened up things in the second half. Oklahoma was a really, really, really good team. They were loaded. They scored 60 points 5 or 6 times in that season.
Yeah, but, and everybody thought they were going to do that to Florida too. They were like, "Oh, you're not going to stop them," and then Florida held them to 14 points. So
it's funny how that works with Oklahoma though, because you went back and you go talking about all-time great Sooner teams on this channel. This is rough. Go back to 2003, and they're just filthy. Just very, very loaded. And what they beat Texas 65-13. They beat A&M 77-0. They scored 63 on Oklahoma State. Just absolutely annihilating people. And then they play Kansas State in the Big 12 championship game. And I was a massive football dork. Massive. And I was going to watch a high school playoff game in Waco. And but I still popped in the old cassette, hit record, and I was going to record the Dr. Pepper Big 12 championship game. And then I didn't have a phone back then, so I wasn't going to see a score. I was going to come home. I was going to watch Kansas State and Darren Sproles and L. Roberson take on Stoops Sooners, who are number 1. And we're sitting there at the game, the playoff game, and it's Waco ISD Stadium. Gage, I don't know if you've ever been over there, but back then it was like the brand new. And they had a scoreboard and a ticker and everything. And it was it felt like we were in outer space compared to the area I was in and the type of stadiums and venues we had. And sure enough, somewhere on the ticker at halftime, it pops up and it says Kansas State 35, Oklahoma 7. And I was like, well, that ticker's broken. That thing doesn't work at all.
Technology's broke.
Yeah. And then little did I know, I think they beat them 35-14 or something, and that was their actual score. And then they go to the national championship game and they score 14 points. They just get absolutely shut down. So I don't know, some of those spread OU teams, once they got, they had that big layoff between the regular season, teams, I guess, had more time to analyze and break film down on them. But they also ran into a couple of SEC teams with, LSU and Florida in those championships who are known for playing some pretty good defense. So you have to give them credit too.
Florida defense was pretty good.
Yeah.
I think the physicality level was still a little bit different that year. I'm not saying I still think Texas beats Florida, but I'm always going
to You're always going to think that.
No one's going to change our mind.
Yeah, no one's going to change your mind.
Because you can't prove it one way or another. So yeah, we can say it. We can say it confidently. We beat Oklahoma by 10. They beat Oklahoma by 10. We'll never know. But yeah, share your trophy. But okay. So going down memory pain lane, that was a lot of fun.
Right.
Glad we did that. So you've had our conference champion picks. You've had our Heisman picks. What we're gonna do now is we're going to pop up with our college football playoff predictions. We are going to pop up with Mr. Gage's first here. And we're going with Savannah first. And Savannah, what we're going to do is we're going to run through your bracket. Okay, we've got the 12 teams. We'll let you talk about your matchups, kind of fill out your bracket, kind of maybe why you're talking about each pick. And then after we've all three done our brackets, we'll circle back. And some of the teams that a lot of people feel have a good chance to make the playoffs, maybe kind of talk about why we think they missed the playoffs. If that all sounds okay by y'all.
Perfect.
So, all right, we're going with Miss Savannah first. This is Savannah 2J's official playoff predictions right here on the screen.
Completely.
All right. I actually edited all of her picks and made the Longhorns number 1. She had us at like 7 or 8, but I wasn't going to take that on this channel. So no, I'm just kidding. All right, Savannah, talk to us about your bracket. Talk to us about a little bit about how you think it plays out. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, so I have all my conference champs with buys, I guess. No, Florida State.
Yeah, all the conference champs are. Wait, no, that is not right. You should. Yeah, this should be flipped. So okay, we're gonna flip this.
That's all right. We can talk it. We can talk it out.
Okay.
Yeah, because I can't have Texas and NC State playing each other. That's just not going to work in any world.
Okay. we'll just flip those if that works for you, and so we'll have 9-seeded Florida State and 4-seeded North Carolina State.
Yeah. No, it's my fault because I was busy and could not send it this morning.
Oh no, you're great. You did great.
Yeah, so like I said, have Texas winning. I know that's crazy, but I kind of want to see it happen for the chaos. Obviously, first 4 seeds winners gonna buy. ACC one, yeah, I have NC State winning it. We're going all the way. I believe in manifesting out of it. Manifest everything. So we're going all the way. We're winning it. We'll be in Charlotte. We'll already be used to it because we're gonna kick Tennessee's butt in Charlotte week 2.
I didn't realize that game was being played in Charlotte. That's cool.
Yeah. It's the Duke's Mayo kickoff one. So yeah, in Charlotte. And then I have Oregon winning. I have Oregon winning it all. So we'll talk about them a little bit later. And then, like I said, my Heisman favorite is on Oklahoma State. So I'm riding with them in the Big 12 this year because I just don't think BYU's defense is going to get it done. I get it by themselves, so I couldn't pick them. Obviously, my brother's on defense, or I wouldn't be saying that. Kansas State, I know everyone's sleeping on Kansas, but I think we're just kind of sleeping on both Kansas schools. I think both will be good. Obviously, NC State played Kansas in the Pop-Tart Bowl, so I got to see them. I don't usually typically watch a ton of Big 12 football. I watch all the games that are on every week, but it was fun to see a Big 12 game live. I haven't seen one in a long time besides UCF, and they just recently joined. So I think they'll be pretty good this year. Have them seeded for sure in the top 12. Georgia, I kind of talked about them already. I think they'll be one extreme or the other. I think they'll be really disappointing this season, or I think they'll be great and they'll win the SEC and be way better than I'm saying. Carter Finley's an underrated game day atmosphere. I'm telling you. If you guys ever want to come meet me out at Carter Finley. I'll show you a good game day experience. I have Boise State being the best Group of 5 team. I don't know if this is a hot take or not. I feel like they're kind of an underdog. When I was looking at other stuff, a lot of people have Liberty and App State, and who else do they have? somebody else, but I just kind of looked at their schedule. I looked at who they play. I know they have a first-year head coach, but Boise State's always kind of one of those teams that you just can't really underestimate. I think they'll do better than we're ready for, to be honest. Ohio State's always going to be good. I really hope Ryan Day gets the win against Michigan this year. I love Ryan Day. I think he's a great coach. I think he's a great person. So that one's more of like, that's what I'm hoping for personally. Penn State, yeah, I'm not really sure about them. I feel like we've talked about them a lot. I think that same thing. They'll exceed our expectations, or they'll go like 5-8. I don't know. I'm really up in the air about them. They have a good receiving core. I'm just not sure that that's going to put the whole thing together. They obviously lost their defense coordinator to Duke, and I think Manny Diaz is a phenomenal defense coordinator. I don't know how I feel, Dame, about him being a head coach, but I think he's a phenomenal defense coordinator, so I think that's a big hit. But I know Anthony Poindexter is their defense coordinator also, so I know he can cover that, but Manny's brilliant, so that'll be interesting to see, but I still think they hit in the top 12. It's hard to pick. It's hard to not pick Alabama. Some teams are just, they're always going to be solid and good. And Arizona's kind of, I guess it's kind of also a sleeper team. I don't know if everybody has them. People have them in like their top 25, but I think they're headed in the right direction. I think it could be a really big year for them. So that's definitely my predictions for that. You want me to keep going?
So yeah, talk about your. So at the top, you'd have Kansas State and Florida State, right?
Yeah.
About it. I made an error. So you would have K-State, and Florida State. Who are you taking in that one?
I think I'm taking Kansas State, which is going against everything I believe of rooting for conference.
I'm cool with that. You said out the window with conference pride, and I'm a fan of the Purple Wildcats. I like that. All right, so now you're talking about having your North Carolina State Wolfpack in the 4 spot and playing the winner of 5th seeded Georgia, 12th seeded Boise. Who do you like more there?
I think we're going to have a rematch of the college, or I guess the super regional college World Series, and we'll be playing Georgia. Hopefully Georgia. We have the same outcome where we beat them. That would be a tough one.
Okay. Moving further down, you're talking about Ohio State and Penn State. One of the probably the most teams that benefit the most from the 12-team playoff, the old Penn State Nittany Lions, and then you turn around and have to play Ohio State your first time. I'm sure they'd hurt a little bit at that one. How do you feel about that matchup?
I think they're going to hurt when they lose to Ohio State, too. There's no way they come out on top of that one.
That would likely be their second loss to them of the season. So, it hurt a little more. And then the battle of the U of A's down here, University of Alabama, University of Arizona.
Oh, man. Oh, no. This is gonna get some hate. I have too many Bama friends, but I'm rolling with the Wildcats.
Let's go. That's a massive upset there.
Cheers.
I know it only says a 10 and a 7, but that's a pretty big upset. Savannah's got
I'm rolling with the Wildcats.
I like it. All right. So if you go back to the top here now, you slid Kansas State in there against the Horns, 8-1 matchup. Can Kansas State break their 7-year losing streak to Texas in the college football playoff?
No, not happening.
Not this year.
No, it's not. It's just you can't. That's not the time you're going to win that game.
Fully agreed. Well, here's what we'll do. We're gonna go over we're gonna skip over your game. That can be the last one of these here. We're gonna go with Oregon and Ohio State playing probably a little bit earlier in the playoffs than they probably wish they were.
But Oregon's winning it. They have no choice.
You got no choice. You've got them locked in. Okay, well, that creates a really fun matchup down at the very bottom with Oklahoma State and Arizona. Shout out Big 12, having 2 teams here.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy, but I got to roll with my Heisman favorite. So we're going to Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy.
Roll on Ollie Gordon. So you're looking at a Final Four of Texas, North Carolina State, Oregon, and Oklahoma State, correct?
Yes.
All right. So this is a fun matchup. You're talking about your Longhorns and also your Wolfpack. How are you feeling there?
Everyone gives me a lot of crap for rooting for a lot of teams, but it just gets too intertwined and tangled. Like, what do you guys want me to do? I don't have a choice.
I think it's awesome. I have no qualms with it whatsoever. I just give you a hard time because if I were to pick a second school, it would be North Carolina and not North Carolina State. And no offense, that's where I have to give you at least a little bit of mess from.
Absolutely. Which I realize is the Mac Brown connection, and that is just tough.
It's way back. It's Michael Jordan, Jerry Stackhouse, Vince Carter. Like I guess Jordan was before them, but Jerry Stackhouse and Vince Carter those were my guys back in the day. I was a basketball guy, and Carolina basketball was a lot of fun to watch. Always are. But all right, great. So you're talking about Texas and Carolina State. North Carolina State? Did you make a pick right there?
Yeah, well, my pick is I'm rolling with the Pack.
You're rolling with the Pack, and that's fine. Yeah. I get it. Maybe we have a few turnovers. Maybe we're trying to punt late in the game, up by 2, and it gets a little rainy, and the snap slips, and you kick a 54-yarder in the rain, and you win. It can happen.
Or we just run the damn ball.
No, you don't make it. That's a slow death. Don't do that to us. But okay, so now we've got your Oregon Ducks and Ollie Gordon, and this is where it appears that your Heisman goes down for the season.
It does.
Not with injury, just his season's over.
No. Oh my gosh.
Not with injury. No. Don't get mad at us.
For the college athletes, that is no. Right. Yeah, the story goes down to Oregon for sure.
Does he throw his helmet?
I want to say the professional side of me is like, no. But then, like, the part of me that's like, yeah, I hope he does. So
he only threw it because he cares, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's passionate.
And then, unfortunately, now, Savannah, we've got Oregon, we've got North Carolina State. I'm assuming you're the same as us. You didn't want to pick North Carolina State right here because you don't want to put the ultimate jinx on them.
Yes.
Kind of like me. I get it. And Oregon's a good team. Somebody out there could clip this and play this back if it does end up being Oregon and North Carolina State. So I get it. You're being safe. I get that.
Gotta play it safe. I cannot, under any circumstance, jinx my team. So we're just gonna roll with Oregon.
You can't do that. Absolutely not.
No further comment.
Well, I think you did. Thank you for doing this and sending all of these picks over and being a part of this. I think you did a great job. Obviously, you have the Longhorns #1, so A+ job, fantastic. I hope we meet you in the Wolfpack in the semis. We'll see who wins that one. Okay, we'll see. Great job. Thank you very much, Mr. Gage Sheets. We're going to go over to yours right here. Thought we were going to go over to yours. Now we're going to go over to yours. Here we go, Mr. Gage. All right, Gage, talk to me about your bracket. Obviously, you got your 4 highest ranked conference champions having the buys in the 1st through 4 seeds. Talk to me about some of these teams that filled in these last few spots and then make your way towards the finish line, brother, man.
Well, I'm going to be completely wrong, probably. But I had a tough time, man. I was going through schedules, and I had a tough time seeding as well. I was like, man, I don't know, this matchup versus this matchup, like how I'm going to get to here. So, because I knew I was going to pick Georgia to win the national championship. And so, so we'll start with the 12 seed. So I picked Boise State. I think somebody in the comments earlier said, don't sleep on Nelson. They're not starting Malachi Nelson, which made me very concerned about if I was going to pick Boise State or not. Because I was like, oh, they got Malachi Nelson. They got Genty. And I think Genty is going to be, speaking of Heisman sleepers, he's going to be a dog over there at Boise State running the football. So I really like Boise State. The Mountain West doesn't really scare me too much. Sorry, Colorado State fans. But I was going back and forth. I like USF. I like Memphis too. I like both those teams in both those conferences. Obviously App State, Liberty. I think Liberty's probably gonna go undefeated. I think they play App State like week 4, so that'll be an interesting game. But I think Liberty will probably go undefeated, but that conference is not very good, and I think that the committee saw kind of what happened to him last year against Oregon. And so I think even a one-loss Boise State team, or you say like a one-loss USF team, probably makes it in over even an undefeated Liberty, which they might lose to App State, so they might not even be undefeated. But so I got Boise State there. I got NC State at 11. 11 was a tough spot for me as well because I was just like trying to put my mind in it. Like, okay, are they going to have 2 ACC teams? Or are we going to sneak in another SEC team? Or are we going to sneak in another Big Ten team? Or is it going to be, like I said, 2 ACC or 2 Big 12 teams? So I was having a really tough time trying to figure out who that last team was. And I just thought, maybe they'll slip in. Maybe they'll keep it to where they'll at least have the conference runner up. So NC State, even though I have them with 3 losses at 10-3, I go ahead and put them in there at 11. 10 Michigan. I have Michigan. They have Oregon at home, I believe, and so I have them actually beating Oregon at home, and Oregon being a 1 loss, and then Oregon beating Ohio State, and Ohio State beating Michigan. So kind of like a little.
I love it.
Love triangle between those 3 teams and beating each other. And I think Michigan loses to Texas. So I think but I think they'll have good enough season to where the committee is going to have a tough time being like, oh, our defending national champions lost, 2 games to very good football teams. We're not going to let them in. I think Michigan will get in. Notre Dame. This one, pit of my stomach. I was like, I don't really like Notre Dame, but I do like their quarterback. I really like Riley Leonard. I know people don't put a lot of stock into off-season stuff, but some of the tape that I was watching on Riley, I think we talked about a little bit of the Elite 11. Oh, that's high school. I can't remember which competition it was, but Riley looked really good, and he actually won that competition, and he was making some very accurate passes. So I really like Riley Leonard. I have some concern. They just lost their tackle to a season-ending injury, and he was supposed to be really, really good. Obviously, we've seen Notre Dame come out of nowhere with NFL tackles in the last few years, so I think they'll be able to replace him. But that's also concerning, especially considering their first game is against Texas A&M, who has a defensive line that gives me the heebie-jeebies. They got some dudes on their defensive line. So, but I like Notre Dame. And then I've got Texas at 8. The reason I picked Texas at 8, I think that Texas loses. Obviously, I'm picking them to lose a game at Georgia. And then I think they drop another SEC game. And I'm not sure which one it is. I think we've talked about a little bit about the Kentucky game. I think the Kentucky game scares me. I think the Kentucky game is like one of those games. It's a week before A&M. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right.
Yeah, it's a week before A&M. I'm a little concerned about running back depth already. I think that the SEC schedule is going to be physical. And I'm a little worried that we're going to slip up at some point. And I really think Kentucky is better than people. I don't think they're better than people think. I think they're about an 8-win, 9-win team. And I think they're going to sneak up on somebody. And I think it's going to be us. So that's kind of where I got them getting eliminated from SEC contention and dropping to that 8 seed was that loss to Kentucky. Obviously, we're not going to lose to Texas A&M. So that's not happening. Clip that.
Feels a lot better to predict a loss against Kentucky than A&M for sure.
Yeah, and Oklahoma's beat us so many times that it's like I could have predicted us to beat Oklahoma. That would have been. We need to beat Oklahoma though, bad. We need to beat Oklahoma this year for recruiting wise. Period. We need to beat OU. So, Alabama. I love Jalen Milroe. I really like your Heisman with KDB headed over there because like obviously we've seen what he can do with quarterbacks. So that's going to be super fun to watch with him and Milroe. And Milroe's I mean, we've seen what he could do. I think that the Texas game woke him up more to his capabilities than it did anything last year. And so he's going to be fun to watch in that offense. I don't think Alabama's going anywhere. I think they're going to be perfectly fine. So, especially in this playoff format, I think they're going to continue to make it in year after year. So I got Alabama there, and then I got my SEC runner-up, Ole Miss. We kind of already talked about them, so I won't go over them again. But yeah, I just think that the schedule favors them, and I think that they get in. And then I've got Ohio State, my Big Ten runner-up, to number 2 or to the number 5 seed. So yeah, I just kind of did it by runner-ups. So like Ohio's my Big Ten runner-up was 5, my SEC runner-up was 6. So yeah. And then so go to the Texas Notre Dame game. We'll start there. I'm picking Texas. I just think that Notre Dame, they're a good team. I think Texas depth-wise is going to be a little bit better than them this year. I think defensively, we're probably going to be a little bit better than them this year. I think DKR is going to be that game. I mean, think about that. This is the fun thing about doing this, is thinking about some of these games, man. Notre Dame in Austin in December, that's going to be electric. So, yeah, I think the home field advantage will play a lot into this first year or two in these tournaments. In these college football playoffs, these 12, I think home field advantage is going to play a lot. So I'm rolling with Texas to beat Notre Dame there. I've got Ohio State beating Boise State. Don't necessarily think it's going to be close. I think Boise State's a good team, but Ohio State's going to that 5 seed spot. Let me tell you, like if you're not the 1 seed, being the 5 seed's kind of cake, because you get the 12 seed, you get the group of 5, and then you get the worst conference champion. Well, we won't say worst
ranking wise.
Yeah, right. And then so you get, that number 4 seeded conference champion. Yeah, like, and then go down to Ole Miss, NC State. I'm sorry, I love NC State, but it was a Cinderella story from the beginning. Whoever was that 11 seed.
We're on a roll with those. We're on a roll with those lately.
We can kick him off if you need us to. There's like a couple buttons.
So I like Ole Miss. I like Ole Miss to advance there. I do like NC State a lot. I think I've talked about it a lot. I think the big reason they get in here is more the favorability of schedule than anything. Like I think if they were in the ACC and they saw Florida States, if they saw the Miamis, if they saw the Virginia Techs, it would probably be less likely that they were in this spot. But they have a good schedule, and I think that they're good enough to take care of the schedule that they do. So I got Ole Miss beating them there. And then the rematch from the Rose Bowl, that awesome overtime Rose Bowl game, I'm taking Alabama this time. Miami lost enough, or sorry, not Miami. Michigan lost enough to make me think Alabama is just going to be the better team, and so I'm going to take Alabama there. So going up to the Georgia Texas game, I think Georgia beats us twice this year. I think they beat us in Austin, and I think they beat us there. I think that I mean I've talked about Georgia enough, but they're ready to go, man. They look like they're ready to go. I get to see them up close and personal next week. I'm probably gonna be at that game in Atlanta against Clemson, so I'll get a firsthand look on how good Georgia is. But I think they're going to send a statement next week, and I think they're going to send a statement throughout the entire year. And then you got Utah, Ohio State. I like Utah. I don't necessarily like Ohio State this year, but I think that like talent wise, all around the block, like Ohio State's got dudes. And I mean, I've talked a little bit about Ohio State and their quarterback. I don't really trust their quarterback. I don't really like their quarterback. When Ohio State gets into these closer games, and I think they got a favorable spot here with the 5 seed, but when they get into these closer 1 possession games, is Will Howard going to make the throws that he needs to make to win a football game? Like, I think that's the big question as we get closer down, but we'll talk about it more in the next game. So then I got Oregon and Ole Miss. I've got Oregon advancing here. I like Oregon overall is a better team than Ole Miss. I like Dylan Gabriel. I think Dylan Gabriel is. I mean, I saw it firsthand in the Red River rivalry last year. He's very good. I think that OU fans are going to be wishing that Dylan Gabriel was still Sooner by this point for sure. So I really like Dylan Gabriel, and I like Oregon to advance there. Miami and Alabama. I have. Did this get? Oh, this is different than mine. Okay, so it is going to be Miami versus Alabama, huh? Did this get messed up?
I have no idea, man.
I'm looking at it weird because I had the 2 seed at the bottom of the bracket,
Okay, I see what you're saying.
but I might have been wrong. But we'll go with that. We'll go with Miami versus Alabama. In that case, I'm going to take Alabama to win that game. Again, I just think Alabama is going to continue to keep that train rolling. I like the SEC over the ACC. So I'm going to take Alabama to beat my favorite quarterback in Cam Ward there.
I think I think that was the comment where we kick him.
The SEC over ACC.
Hey, we did so last year. It's a new year, but last year we were up. We were up on the SEC. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I think the ACC's got some good teams.
All right,
So
continue. Go ahead.
Go into the semifinals. I got Georgia and Ohio State, and this is kind of where it goes. This is where the teams get so close that it you really start to get into those deeper conversations of okay, who can make the plays? Even I was looking at kickers, who can make the kicks? Because that's what some of these games come down to when you get these two talented teams. And I think Ohio State's just as talented as Georgia. I really do. But at the end of the day, is Will Howard going to be able to make the throws that he needs to make? I mean, don't blame me, but I don't believe in him. I'm not a believer. I'm a believer that he can make the throws if he needs to against Minnesota. I'm a believer he can make the throws against Rutgers or even Penn State, but I'm not a believer that he can make the throws against Georgia. And so I'm taking Georgia to win there. I think experience and quarterback player, obviously the difference there. And people may roast me for this, but even head coaching wise, I'm a Smart over Ryan Day. I'm a lot of people over Ryan Day type of person. So moving on next, we'll have Oregon versus Alabama. I think that Alabama wins that game. Or sorry, Oregon beats Alabama. I just really like Oregon. I think that's two pretty close teams. It'll be interesting to see the Kalen DeBoer Oregon matchup again because he kind of takes care of business when it comes to Oregon. So he did it twice last year. I don't think really any of us. I was getting home from the Big 12 championship game last year, and that Oregon Alabama game, we were watching it on the way home, or the Oregon Washington game, and I thought Oregon was gonna beat them. I was like, there's no way Washington had injuries. I was like, there's no way they're, and then they took care of business. So Kalen DeBoer kind of has their number like he does Texas's. So, but I still like Oregon to get it done there. I like Dan Lanning. I like Dylan Gabriel. That's going to be a really good game. So, and then for the championship, I have Georgia beating Oregon. I just think Georgia's the best team. I think they've got revenge on their mind. I think they've got the best quarterback, the best coach. I don't think there's a lot of holes to poke in the Georgia theory, and it may be chalk, but yeah, I mean, I'm picking the best team. So,
I mean, it's hard to blame you. I mean, they're coming off back-to-back years of not winning a title, and they might have been the best team. I'm not going to say that. It's not fair to say that because the teams that did win it, but I understand why you have Georgia winning your SEC title, Carson Beck winning your Heisman, and the Georgia Bulldogs winning your Natty. It makes sense. Georgia's going to be really, really good. There's a lot of talent there. At the same time, I do think there are distractions, man, but I think you made a great case for all your points. I'm really interested in, the Boise stuff, the NC State. how you filled out those last those last few slots in the playoff standings, the 10 through 12, a couple of at-large teams. We
Yeah,
all know.
I don't feel good about them at all. Like at the end of the day, like they
No,
could
I
all
like it.
be.
I want to
Yeah,
know because you can make a case for anyone. There's a laundry
right.
list of team, and that's why after we go through mine real quick, we talk about a few of the teams that didn't make it and that are on some lists that just weren't on any of ours. But I like it. I think you guys did a good job at Oregon and Georgia, even though it was really, really hard for Savannah to take Oregon there. Y'all did a good job, and so we'll go one further down here. Gage, you got a lot of faith in Miami, man. I like the Miami belief. I think football would be better if Miami was solid again. Sorry,
I
Savannah,
agree.
but
I totally agree. I think
okay,
football is better when like OG teams are better. Like I hope we beat them
absolutely.
if we play them, but I hope.
Well, just think how much more of win means over Miami when they're irrelevant and when they're themselves, or a
Bro,
win
that
over
place will be
Alabama.
rocking.
Yeah,
Like the crowd's more energetic. Miami when they have good teams. Unfortunately, when they have bad teams, they don't show up. But when they have good teams, like they can get pretty raucous down there. So
I
it
don't know
absolutely.
in my lifetime that I remember they've been good. So I'd love to see a Miami being back team.
yeah.
It was when when I was in early middle school. That was kind of the
Yeah, I
end
was
of it.
young. I was in
I watched.
elementary school, I think.
They were really, really, really damn good in 2000 and 2001, 2002. That '01 team was filthy.
Yeah. Best
Texas
team ever.
Texas choked in the Big 12 championship game. Otherwise, they would have got to play Miami, and it probably a little bit of a blessing because my God, they were
Yeah,
good.
that team was loaded.
They were so good, so good. But all right, we'll
Yeah,
click
I was
down
like
here.
in kindergarten then, so
Yeah.
little young
Well,
for me.
making me feel about 200 years old.
Well,
Almost
Yeah.
a shame.
that's the point, but I feel bad that I can't discuss how great they were. I don't remember.
They had an attitude and an aura around them that was a lot different than what we've seen anytime in the last 15 years or so. Ken Dorsey, shout out. This
Yeah.
man knows. Ken
Dorsey.
Dorsey, Kellen Winslow, Ed Reed, Willis McGahee.
Bro, their entire
Jonathan,
running back room.
Jonathan Vilma. Like you can go on and on
Entire
and on.
running
And
back room 1 year, bro.
you're naming all NFL or all pro NFL players. You're naming Pro Bowlers and first team guys. Like you're not naming just like they didn't have any of the guys who are like, yeah, that guy's going to go off and be a realtor and he's going to do great things in communication. No, it's like they were all going to the league and they're all going to be
Yeah,
dang good,
all of
except for Ken Dorsey didn't. He went to the league but just didn't play. All right, let's talk about this mess that you see on your screen. I'll start at the very bottom. We'll talk about the G5 pick. I am going to trust that Liberty they get into the playoff as that fifth team, or in the fifth spot in the G5 spot. My goodness, but I'm going there. I think that they're good enough. The schedules and they return enough. They're explosive enough. I just don't think that there's enough firepower for Liberty and the rest of that conference to keep them out of the conference championship game. And then I think, they'd be a really, really tough matchup once they're in the conference championship game. So just getting there, you kind of, even if you drop a game, still a great chance to get there. And I just don't see Liberty losing more than twice in a year with that schedule that they have. But that's why you play the game. Anything can happen. I am going to throw Ole Miss in there in the 7th seed. I will say that I had Ole Miss at 10-2. I have them losing at LSU, Death Valley, and then I also, what was the other loss? Surprisingly, I have them dropping the Oklahoma game. Kind of a weird game, but Jackson Dart up against a really experienced defense in Oklahoma. The game's later in the year, a little more time for Oklahoma to develop that offensive line and Jackson Arnold. But once again, I know nothing, and it's just fun to pick upsets sometimes. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
we're going to go to Notre Dame, and I'm going to talk for a few seconds on them because they're going to be in there. I don't think there's a way on earth that Notre Dame misses the playoff. I am going to go ahead and stand firmly on the stance. Like Notre Dame will lose in College Station in week 1.
Yeah.
I'm putting that the stamp on that one. Notre Dame will not beat the Aggies. I think that the injury was just way too big. Charles Jagusa is being replaced by freshman Anthony Knapp right there, and they love Anthony Knapp. He's going to be a really talented player. Sam Pendleton in the left guard is another one, but these are really young guys. And talking about going into Kyle Field and dealing with that environment in week one, I think it's going to be a lot on Notre Dame. Like you, Gage, I like Riley Leonard, but different type of, it's not a camp setting, the real deal. It'll be a little bit out of his hands at times when, like you mentioned, that defensive line's coming down on him. And I think the Aggie offense will be able to do enough with Colin Klein, Connor Wigman, pretty talented wide receiver room to do enough there. But Notre Dame's going to lose this game.
I think we'll talk about this game more next week.
Okay.
But
we're going to talk a little about A&M in a minute if you want to. But go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, we can talk about it more, but just let's say Notre Dame drops that game. I probably think Notre Dame drops it. Their schedules. I mean, it's like an FCS schedule.
This is what's frustrating. I'm predicting Notre Dame to drop 3 games this year. I think that
3 games.
You got to really.
So you have them go 9-3 because that was my question.
I have them going 9-3, and I'm going to say they don't deserve to be up here, but because of their Notre Dame and their name and the schedule's weak enough, and they'll find 9 wins, they will not leave Notre Dame out. Which
that's crazy.
In place is going to screw over some 10-win team that probably deserves to be in over Notre Dame because they're not going to beat anybody. I like Notre Dame football. I wish they'd prove me wrong, shut me up, and just go beat somebody. And they have a great chance to do that. Just go beat A&M. I'd be the happiest person ever. I would love for them to laugh at me for kind of standing on their chest and talking noise. But I don't see them. Riley Leonard's a good player, but he's also going to get in there and get knocked around. He's going to go in there and take his shots. And I'd love to stay healthy. I like that kid. I hope he plays every down of the season. But I have a hard time. They'll be tough to run on defense. The interior is going to be really good. But I don't know, man. They'll get in there. 9-3 or 10-2, but they're not going to beat A&M in week 1. I'm standing on that. They won't beat them, and there'll be another loss or 2 in there. But still, even at 9-3, they'll get in over some teams. So I have them. Then we're talking about Texas. I had Texas going 11-1. The loss that I had, Texas, was to Georgia. We'll see about that. Obviously that means nothing. 11-1 would be a fantastic season. Now you go up to the 12th spot, and this was where I have some fun. I've got SMU in there. I think SMU is going to be really, really salty this year. I think the schedule in the ACC is super, super favorable. I'm talking about Florida State at home, and you're talking about that being the only road game on the only ranked team they play. So, at least preseason rankings in the entire schedule. I think they go to Louisville. They go to Duke. Very winnable games. Their offense was top 20 in the nation last year. They return almost everything. Top 7 wide receivers. They've got Preston Stone back again, obviously. You go to the defense. You have the top 7 tacklers back. You have 10 of the top 11 tacklers back. If they stop the run in the ACC, I legit think SMU. That's why I have Clemson beating in the ACC championship game. I legit think SMU in their opening year can make a run. And for anyone that's watching from ACC country and they're like, this dude is a straight state of Texas homer. He has Texas Tech at the 4 seed. He has SMU at the 5 or the 12. Go check anything I've ever said on my account. I've never once said a word about SMU in any of this. But this is a great spot for Coach Rhett Lashley and the SMU Mustangs. I think they go in and have a great year. So this is what I have. I have Clemson dropping 1 conference game. I have SMU dropping 1 conference game. And then sadly, Savannah have North Carolina State dropping 2. So there's your 9-3 season, just outside of the ACC title game. But going on, they're playing Ohio State up there. Obviously that, I have Oregon over Ohio State in the Big Ten Championship. Then you hop up, you have Penn State. Like we said earlier, they benefit big time from the expanded playoff. It's going to be massive for them. Does Drew Aller take a jump? Who knows? James Franklin, another coach. We need a little more excitement in their offense. They had the big transfer wide receiver come over from Ohio State. Running game's great. You had 2 backs that, over 2K last year combined yards. But they don't play anybody. They don't play anyone. And you get Michigan at home. Or no, sorry, you don't play Michigan at all, and you don't play Oregon at all. And you play Ohio State. I believe that game's at home. And so, another team that's like, there might be better football teams out there in the SEC that go 9-3. maybe even potentially, another ACC team or a Big 12 team that might be better. I mean, they're going to be good on defense. Don't get me wrong; they were the number one defense in the country last year in tackles for loss and sacks. Like, they're going to have a great defense. But I mean, if Drew Allar and that offense don't do something, I mean, you have a very, very limited ceiling. And so, I have them with Georgia. I had Georgia missing the SEC championship game entirely. I'm using distractions as my excuse. I do have them beating Texas, but dropping a couple games. I think they do lose the Bama game, and then one of Tennessee or Ole Miss. I'm hoping Tennessee. I think that'd be a cool win for the Vols if they could finally get over Georgia. But all right, so we'll go back down to the bottom. I guess I got Texas over Notre Dame, Ole Miss over Liberty, pretty standard. Clemson and Ole Miss. I would lean much more towards Ole Miss in that one, to be honest with you. Let's go ahead and get Clemson out of there. Sorry, I didn't have North Carolina State, Savannah, but I do have Clemson going one and done, so I hope that helps. Texas and Alabama, a rematch for my SEC title game. Golly, what have I done? Sark is not losing to KDB 4 times in a row. So we're going to the semis. I don't care. You're talking SMU, Ohio State.
It stresses me out, man.
4 times in a row.
It stresses me out.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if Alabama beat them in the title game, I mean, that would be 3 straight times we played them here. That'd be 4. So
okay, you won't lose that. I feel like it's so hard to beat or lose to a team twice in the same season.
Yeah.
You'll win with them.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm hoping I'm gonna be honest. I like the way we match up with Alabama on paper. I think we match up really, really well. Absolutely perfect. But at the same time, it's college football, and we got to beat that guy, because I definitely felt like we were the better team going into the Washington game the last 2 years as well. So I'm going to have Georgia over Penn State. So Oregon versus Georgia. What a fun matchup in the quarterfinals. I'm rolling with Oregon. Obviously, they got the crown on their head over here. So we're going Oregon over Georgia, Ohio State over Tech, Texas over Alabama, Ole Miss over Clemson, which sets up an all SEC semifinal over here with Texas and Ole Miss. And then you're looking at a Big Ten semifinal on the other side with Oregon and Ohio State. Give me Oregon and Texas. Oregon over Texas. Oregon and Texas, with Oregon beating Texas. I mean, hey, if we make it to the Natty, I'm going to be a pretty happy camper. But by God, if we get there, we better win that game. That'd be pretty cool. So I don't know. I think Oregon's really dang good. Dan Lanning is an excellent recruiter, a great motivator. Obviously, the guy can scheme you up. They don't really have any flaws over there. And so as long as they can stay remotely healthy in Eugene, the schedule is really favorable. Obviously they got the big showdown with Ohio State. That's going to be one of the more look forward to games in all of college ball this year. So give me Oregon, guys. If y'all are in the comments, you've got our 3 champions right here. You got 2 Oregon picks from me and Miss Savannah, Mr. Gage in the middle with Georgia. It's all pretty chalky, but if you go back and look at college football in the last, 14, 15 years, you're not getting a lot of surprise champions in there. And those 2 teams are, the way they recruit and the transfer portals that they had, would be no surprise if Oregon or Georgia won another title. Yeah. But all right, so there you go. You have our conference champion picks. You've got our Heisman picks. You've got our college football playoff prediction picks. And so we're going to go back here and talk a little bit about the teams that weren't on the list, if that's good with you guys. So, Gage, Savannah, talk a little about, Gage, SEC, Big 12, maybe if you like Savannah, you know the ACC really well. Some of the teams that weren't on the playoffs are on our playoffs list that might be some are on some others list. So, I think, did y'all have Florida State on here, either one of you?
No.
Did I? I have Florida State.
So you have Florida State, okay. So, but yeah, just an example, just to, Gage talked about, A&M, Missouri, some of the teams that weren't on your list. What keeps them off? What do you think those seasons like? Just name a couple teams that, that we'd be curious to see how they do. But what keeps them from reaching their expectations, I guess? Because a lot of people, Missouri is a good example. I know you said, you've already shared a lot of thoughts on LSU, which was one that I would have been curious about, because a lot of people think LSU could be sneaky good this year if that defense turns around. Everyone's high on Newsberger. Yeah. But yeah, so go ahead, man.
All right. Well, we'll start in Missouri. I think that goes back to what I was talking about, the last pick where I put NC State in. like at the end of the day, we're gonna have a tough time knowing what the committee is gonna do with that last pick, and I am going back and forth between a Missouri team that may be 10-2 versus a NC State team that's 10-3 and lost a conference championship game. So are they going to reward teams that are making conference championship games and losing, or are they going to reward teams like Missouri that went 10-2? So I think that's kind of going to be kind of the conversation that like maybe the ACC, like obviously NC State is in the ACC, right? And so we're going to go back to strength of schedules with the Missouri, and a lot of people are going to be like, oh no, Missouri plays in the SEC. They deserve it to get in because they played a harder schedule, right? And I don't have Missouri's schedule pulled up, but I'll pull it up right now. I was looking at it earlier.
It's the schedule I mean, our schedule's pretty generous. I wish we had theirs.
Yeah, I know it. I know it's easy, right? Like, okay, so you got to go to A&M, and then you got to go to Alabama, and then you've got Oklahoma. So I think Missouri's they're returning a lot. I think they've got a good chance to go 10-2. I definitely see them dropping a couple of these games. I don't think they're going to go undefeated. I don't even think they're going to go 11-1. Go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off. Who do you think wins Missouri at Texas A&M?
Here's the problem with Texas A&M, and we'll just go ahead and get into it. And I'm probably going to give you Ghost a couple of clips to be taken. Hopefully, not many people are watching this right now. Texas A&M has not. They've had 2 good years my entire lifetime, and it's never been like a place that I'm like extremely like, oh, at Texas A&M. It's vaunted. They've got a very passionate fan base. They've got a very loyal fan base. Definitely loyal. They've definitely got a loyal. And I'm not putting anything against that, but I'm not scared to go play at Texas A&M. Excuse me. I'm not scared to go play at Texas A&M. I think the big thing with A&M is Wegman going to be healthy? I know what he's capable of. I've seen him make throws. Sorry, I need water. Brianna! I'm a little sick.
You are, yeah. We've been working on remedies all day.
Y'all take over for me for a second. Let me go get some water and I'll finish this A&M conversation.
Oh, you're good. No, I'll try to pick up where Gage left off. I know he's going to bring up Connor Wigman's health. As several Aggies have pointed out, I don't know if health is the real issue. He's had just one injury in his career, but he has missed time for other reasons. I'll let Gage finish his comments on A&M. I'll get my season prediction on A&M and Oklahoma in after that. But Savannah, talk to us a little about ACC. Is there anyone that the national media kind of is expecting to play well that you think might not, or expecting to kind of fall on their face that might overachieve a little bit?
Yeah, I think everyone's expecting, national media is always expecting a lot from Miami. I just can't believe it until I see something. Like I said, I've never seen a Miami season insane in my lifetime that I remember, because kindergarten does not count. So I know that they were big in the 90s. That's when my dad was a college football player. So I know that they were good then. That was like the team to beat. But I think that there's just too much hype around Miami every season until I see something different. Like, I know I talked a lot about Virginia Tech a lot already, and they're my sleeper team. I think the reason that they missed the 12-team playoff is simply because of strength of schedule. They play, I think they play Clemson at home, and I think they play Florida State. Do they not play Florida State? No.
They don't. They have to play Florida State. Absolutely.
Okay.
Miami? Yeah.
They're always... no, Virginia Tech. I can't remember.
Oh, no. Okay, no. I don't think Virginia Tech and Florida State don't play this year.
Virginia Tech doesn't play Florida State.
No. That's what I thought. Their only ranked preseason ranked team that they play is Clemson. And then the rest of their season's fairly easy. They play like Duke, Syracuse. I hate to say it. Virginia.
They dodged the powerhouse SMU.
Yes, exactly. Oh, they have like ODU, Marshall. I don't know. I know everyone's got their cupcakes.
Hey, ODU's giving them problems.
I was about to say, yeah, be careful there.
I've been on the hoping end that it always goes south for them there. So I'll be rooting for the Monarchs that week. But yeah, I just think that I think they win all those games. I just think their strength schedule doesn't help.
This is a great comment there by Matt. It did seem to feel like the end of the Nebraska era. But to be fair with Matt and Savannah, you're a little young for this. But check this out, okay? This is back in the BCS days, and it might be a scenario that you already know about. But in the end of the 2001 season, okay, you have Oklahoma, Texas, Nebraska, Colorado, and this is the time where the Big 12 is probably the premier conference in college football. All of these programs are ranked in the top 10, all in the same conference. And you have Oklahoma State and Oklahoma playing the last game of the regular season in Bedlam, and Oklahoma State stuns Oklahoma 16-13, pulls off a massive win, which propels Texas, who lost a head-to-head with OU, to the Big 12 championship game after they beat A&M. Well, the same weekend, you have Nebraska and Colorado, both with one loss, playing each other. And Colorado ran for literally like 4,300 yards. Garrett Tuche would have been so proud of the O-line. And that, I mean, absolutely mauling people. And the concepts were simple, and they kept running the same stuff over and over. They scored 62 on Nebraska. They had to have run for 400-plus yards. They just bodied them. So, Matt, in the comments, I love you very much, brother. You're a good friend. But Colorado put up 62 on you the game before Miami ran right through your head. So, I hate to do that to you. But I think that, we have to talk about that one, okay? Because that was a tough one to watch. And so then, Texas loses to Colorado. And check this out. Nebraska gets into the national title game over Colorado because of the BCS formula by like 0.01 in the standings, a team that had just beat them by 26 points. Fun times. None of it mattered because everyone's going to get killed by Miami, so it didn't matter at all. But so, go back to what you're saying. Sorry for the detour.
No, you're totally fine. We interrupted Gage telling us something.
Uh-oh. You got double interrupted, brother.
Yeah. Well, let me finish my A&M thought. A&M season is going to hinge on keeping Wegman healthy. And if Wegman is the guy that we think he is, I think he's good. I think he's actually really great. Really, really, really good. Great. But can they keep him healthy? Like, how many seasons is this now? This is his third season that he's in College Station?
His third, but yeah.
Yeah, and it'll be, and we'll see if he stays healthy throughout the entire season. And I'm not too big on it. But going back to that Missouri, I just think that it's going to come down to, like I said, a couple of 10-2 teams versus like 10-3 ACC runner-up, or maybe a 10-3 Big 12 runner-up. And I think the committee is going to favor the team that played the extra game versus the team that didn't. And maybe I'm wrong. Probably. Nobody has any idea what those guys are thinking inside that room. So, but that's my guess.
I agree. I think they're going to favor the extra game, even if it's a loss.
I mean, it's tough because, I mean, you're going to have so many teams, SEC, ACC, Big 12, that, I can see on that 9-10 win mark. And, it's tough. It's really hard because you're talking about games that are come down to the wire a lot of the times. And it's really hard if you're trying to fill out a playoff bracket. I think I told one of you, I was like, my head hurts just trying to deal with this. I really am struggling.
Well, and then going back to like Missouri, like I said, it's like, okay, 10-2 Missouri team. Even if you put that up against 10-2 Texas, like Texas 10 wins are probably better than Mizzou's 10 wins. And that's it's going to, there's just too much to go in depth and all this crazy stuff. So.
Right. Absolutely. There's a lot of teams that you and I are going to talk about a little more, Gage, here in just a moment. But first, Miss Savannah, thank you very much for joining us. You've been awesome. You were like, hey, let's do something soon. And I was like, well, hey, Friday, we're doing a prediction show. And you're like, cool, I've got like 48 hours and I'm ready. So thank you for doing this. But before you get out of here, obviously you got a football family. I'm sure there's tons of memories in there. If you don't mind, share with the viewers here. Tell us your overall favorite football memory from growing up in a football house.
Yeah, that's such a good question. I would say my favorite football memory, obviously when your whole family works in it. My sister's a director of football operations. She does a whole bunch of stuff. She works at a small FCS school, so they have a whole bunch of jobs. But she is assistant and stuff. So my whole family works in it, and my brother plays. But when your family works in it, especially if they're a coach, like I just see how much work my dad puts in, right? Like I see him work his ass off to like get recruits to commit, like create relationships with them for years, and then they don't come to our school, and it's like devastating. And I see like my dad didn't go to my college graduation because it's a recruiting season. Like they just miss all those big. And my dad is my best friend. I tell that man everything, so that's not any shot at him. But they just miss a lot of your life, and so the losses are tough, but there is nothing better than when you have a 12-game losing streak to your rival, and then in 2019 you play them at home and you beat their ass at home. So I'd probably say that that's my favorite football memory in 2019 when UVA beat Virginia Tech at home, because you just know what it takes and how much it's like worth it, and it sucks for recruiting reasons to lose to your rival 10 seasons in a row. Like it's just all that kind of stuff, and so it's really emotional actually. And if I went into detail I could get emotional over it, but I won't. But you can probably tell by how I just described it. So that's probably one of my favorites. There's a lot to choose from. That's one of them. I'll keep it lighthearted and leave out the time that we just rushed the ball down your throats at Texas. I'll leave that one out.
I don't even remember that. I don't even remember that happening. I just remember a bunch of blocked punts happening in like a 90-second span, and just being like, "What just happened right here?" Yeah, I was a little boy watching that game, and I was very disappointed in Mac Brown because special teams was something we were great at, and in the season opener we allowed 2 blocked punts in the last 10 minutes of the game. Won't forget that one, but it's a good memory. I was stored way back there. I didn't even remember that I remembered that game. Well done.
Yeah, I'm trying to forget it. Yeah, no, that's definitely, there's a whole bunch, but I am actually off to catch my flight to get to my first college football game of the season. I will be at Florida State Georgia Tech game here in Ireland tomorrow. So
do you have a side that you're rooting for in that one?
I do. It's personal, family friend coaches at Georgia Tech. So
there we go.
The Yellow Jackets like nobody's
Rambling Wreck.
Yep. I always root for a underdog upset when I can. So.
Well, safe travels. Coach Sujay, if you watch this, best of luck to you in the Wolfpack this year. You got a few fans right here, and some pretty high expectations as well. So thank you again, Savannah, for doing this. We'd love to have you back anytime, but safe travels and get some type of rest if you can.
Yeah, of course. No, thanks for having me. My dad was definitely listening and tuning in after their scrimmage that they had tonight. So appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me. I guess hook them while we're at
it. There we go.
Bye, guys.
Right. Thank you. All right, Mr. Gage, just us for a little while, if that's okay with you. A few more minutes.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, man. I really we got 2 schools in particular that I think is pretty appropriate. Maybe make a season prediction for.
Okay.
One wears a really ugly shade of red. The other one wears even an even uglier shade of red. So I'll let you pick one of those 2 schools and give me an overall win-loss total if you don't mind.
We'll start with Texas A&M. What is there over under for the season? Do you know?
I know it opened at 7.5, but I don't know if it actually like climbed up to 8. I don't know if it got up to 8.5.
I wonder if anybody
think that it would be. Any Aggies in the comments, if you have a current over under total for your program on the Aggies wins this fall, drop it in there, because I know that it opened at 7.5, but I guarantee you that a ton of Aggies probably piled the over 7.5. Yeah. So I'm not sure if that was a number that stayed or not.
So I'm just going through their schedule again, and I'm just trying to. You know what would be really funny? Is they lost to Bowling Green. I actually like Bowling Green.
I saw, I think you said you like them to win that conference.
I think Bowling Green's going to win the MAC. I like their that transfer quarterback from Missouri that they've got.
Yeah. that offense will be good, no doubt.
So if we go 7.5, right? So just running through their schedule, they've got Notre Dame. I think that we're kind of in agreement on this injury. I wanted to pick Notre Dame to win that game, but that injury is like, man, it's going to be tough for a freshman to go. Like I said, I'm not big on the whole Kyle Field toughest place to play. I think that's kind of BS. I'm not too worried about going to play at Kyle Field. Like I said, loud. It's very loud. It's numbing how loud it is, and they are very passionate. And I love how passionate they are. But it's kind of like and Texas fans may be mad at me for this, but it's kind of like DKR. Like no one sees DKR on the schedule, and they're like, oh, we're deathly afraid to go to DKR. So that's kind of the way I think about Kyle Field too. Like until they start like actually pulling out some of these wins where they're at home, I don't think anybody's gonna be too worried about going there. But it's still loud, and loud is tough for freshmen offensive linemen, especially against that defensive line. Like that defensive line, then that's going to make a difference too. Like that defensive line is no joke, man. They've got some dudes on that defensive line, and it's going to be tough for Riley Leonard. Then they've got McNeese. I don't think they're going to lose to McNeese at Florida. Florida sucks. They're not going to be very good.
Don't say that. I'm telling you right now that
so
that. Early in the year,
funny.
That's a tough game.
Going to Florida is tough. But it's actually funny with Florida because I was looking at this thing earlier that said that Florida talent wise, composite wise, they're like a top 12 team in the country. Does that really mean anything? Obviously not. Like we saw last year.
We're Texas fans. We know that means nothing.
Obviously not. That means nothing, right? Like Texas is constantly composite talent wise top team in the country. But it shows that they do have talent. I just don't think they have the right coach. We'll see what happens with Florida. I think at Florida, 2:30 in September. I think it's a tough game. I think it's definitely a game A&M could lose because that's what A&M does. But I'm gonna give them a bit for the doubt. I'm gonna say that they're gonna win that one. Arkansas's not good. Then that Missouri game, and you know what's funny about Aggie fans is how they talk about how the Texas schedule is so weak. And I'm like rolling through their schedule, and I've been rolling through it, and I'm like, who do they got? That's really like they've got everybody at home. What they have to go to South Carolina, their other vaunted rivals. They have to go to Jordan Hare to play Auburn. We don't know what Auburn's going to look like. Their quarterback situation is a mess again. So I could definitely see the Aggies. If we do stick it at 7.5, I'm going to take the over. I think they'll win over 7.5 games. And that really, like I said, it just depends on Wegman's health. But their schedule's not like anything crazy. Like the Aggies talk about like the Texas schedule, like they have to go play Alabama and Georgia, and like no, I don't think they don't even have to play. So they got Missouri, Texas, and LSU in conference are the 3 ranked teams they have to play. So
I mean that's the thing is Texas is probably the best team on their schedule, and I'm not saying we're all of that. I'm just saying, when you look at it, Notre Dame could be good. Mizzou obviously could make a run.
I think we've got our concerns about Notre Dame.
But I'm actually really high on A&M as far as from a win total standpoint. I've got them at 9-3, and I think you heard me say it earlier. Guarantee it earlier. I have them beating Notre Dame. 2 games I feel really good about A&M winning. I really like them to beat Notre Dame. Obviously, I stamped that one. I like Missouri at home. I know it's an 11 a.m. kickoff. That's not the full Kyle Field experience, but maybe that's what A&M needs. They wake up early and play ball and not have to sit there all day with all the hoopla and just go play. But with Missouri, still, that game's in the front half of the schedule, and Missouri is still figuring out the defense that they're going to be replacing from last year.
They're losing a lot defensively.
Yeah, a couple of portal exits, but I mean they got some. They did add some via the portal, but at the same time they just had a big injury with Darius Smith. I like A&M at home in that one. I think it's a good matchup for A&M. That's assuming that they do have the cornerback play that I guess everybody's kind of pumping Sunshine right now, but they seem to kind of have both cornerback spots figured out, which was kind of a concern, I know, going into the offseason. But so that dealing with that Missouri 1-2 punch with Luther Burden and Theo Weiss is what I'm referencing. I think they'll be okay for that. I think they drop at Florida or at Auburn. I'm not going to say both games. I think they drop one of the two, and then I think they lose the LSU game. I think LSU is going to be a good deal better. I know you have your concerns. We haven't seen the Tigers play any type of defense in over 2 years now, but that's my thing. LSU has always played great defense. That's one thing that, you know, they've always done, and they've fallen off the face of the earth the last couple of years. Now, you don't fix that overnight, but it's hard for me to see LSU continuing to play bad defense. Like it's got to change, right? And then everybody seems to be just raving about Newsberger and the offense. They're going to have wide receivers. The line's going to be good enough. The offense should be there. So I'm going to chalk up the Aggies for losses to either at Florida, at Auburn. I'm going to give them wins against Notre Dame and Missouri. I'm absolutely guaranteeing the Notre Dame game. I don't have anyone from Notre Dame.
I'm not guaranteeing it. I'm not guaranteeing it. I can't do it. I can't get
no one from
like and until A&M does it like year in and year out. Like I do think they're gonna win that game, but like you ain't gonna find me.
Think about those guys practicing up in South Bend, Indiana right now. There are guys wearing long sleeve shirts out there, and all the special teams and the walk on. Sometimes like there's a wind up there, a cool wind. They have to come down here in that 100+ degree heat. Okay, Kyle and Lang posted a stat earlier talking about their record in September, and it was terrible. And I thought about them playing in the heat before, but when I saw Kyle's stat, thank you, Kyle, I was like, damn, they might be in more trouble than I anticipated. But no, that's not just – he's not going to be the only reason they lose that football game. I think that the offensive line situation is going to be a big thing. They're going to have to work extremely hard to put up points. Low 20s at most. I think they've got like the over-under set, you know, something like 40, 46, 45, 46 for that game. So they're expecting a low-scoring game, which at home with a good defense, I think the bigger play potential, you know, for A&M with Wigman and their wide receivers I don't know. Best unit on the field, I think, in that game could be the A&M defense. Notre Dame defense could be pretty stout.
But let me ask you that, and it was a different situation with them heading to Miami last year. But I have a feeling that we kind of had the same feeling when they were heading into Miami last year. That they were the better team.
There's going to be a bunch of Aggies right now that if there's anyone that watches this that are like, bro, you're just doing the same old crap you've always done. You're trying to jinx us. You're trying to pump Sunshine so you can make fun of us when we lose. Because
I think y'all are going to win over like 8 games, but I'm not guaranteeing that y'all are going to just win this Notre Dame game. I mean, I think that I'm
not saying it'll be a blowout. I'm just saying I like their chances. I like Colin Klein and what he's going to do schematically. But at the same time, I said that the A&M defense is going to be could be the best unit. I mean, they're up there with the Notre Dame. Whatever unit plays better in that game, the Notre Dame defense, the A&M defense, that'll be who wins the game because both O lines are going to have their issues with those defenses. Whoever creates more turnovers, because I think both offenses, you know, it's a tough matchup for both offenses. You're talking about two brand new OCs in their respective schools and schemes or schools and systems. So like. Won't be a lot of points. I don't see that, but yeah, Aggies. I'm guaranteeing a win over Notre Dame, and I like you to lose to LSU, Texas, and then on the road at Florida or Auburn. Of course, I'm not going to pick you guys to beat Texas, but I think that's going to be a terrific ball game. I don't think we're going to go in there and roll you over, but at the same time, I like the talent we have, and on paper, I like a lot of the matchups. I think Texas is a really deep team, but I'm not a fool. I'm not going to go in there and pretend like anything can't happen in that game, just like Red River with Oklahoma. Like anything can go down with Texas and Texas A&M. And so we'll see you guys in November. But so Gage says for sure over 7.5 wins. We don't even know if that's the line anymore.
I don't know what that's. I don't know if that's the line or not. Over 7.5. If it's the line, like y'all better be betting on that because y'all going over 7.5.
Gage is saying minimum 8 wins for A&M this year.
Yeah,
an 8-4 season. Aggies, if you're in the comments, how would you feel about an 8-4 season? Would that make you upset since it does include a loss to Texas? I'm assuming, Gage. I would assume. Sure. How would a 9-3 season make you feel? Year 1 under Mike Elko, would you take a 9-3 season with a loss to Texas and be a happy camper? Would you want to redo the whole thing? But I feel good about Notre Dame. I feel good about Missouri for you guys. There's a couple other tricky games in there. I think Auburn's going to be a lot better than people are wanting to give them credit for, but I understand why they have hesitancies considering that offensive line struggled badly last year and Peyton Thorne was really inconsistent.
Oh man, Peyton Thorne, dude.
Yeah, I know, man. I've been high on the guy, man, but we got to see it. You know what I mean? We
Yeah.
got to see it. So.
Yeah.
But all right, so 9-3 for me for A&M, and so if you're an Aggie and you're at home right now, and I know math is not like, your favorite thing or strongest subject, but a 9-3 season with a loss to
you better be
Texas
careful.
means,
They're gonna be putting out how many engineering schools they have. They're like, oh, we're the top engineering school.
They're all smart. They're all smarter than me. I'm not trying to argue that. I just know more. I'm just gonna say I know more ball. That's all it is.
Okay.
But if y'all are keeping up with it, a 9-3 regular season with a season-ending loss to Texas, that means you would have been a 9-2 playing at Kyle Field with a chance to get to the college football playoffs. Almost guaranteed.
And knock Texas out.
In
my opinion.
I had to say one loss, but yeah, I mean, 2 losses doesn't guarantee you to get in. And so I am high on you guys. I do think that with the right magic, you can find 9 or 10 wins. I really do, because of the defensive talent you have, and I know that Mike Elko is a dang good defensive coach. And now that y'all are running real football plays and not, you don't have that old football or playbook for dummies or whatever that Coach Klein was using on the water boy, reading the football for dummies or whatever it is, like sitting on a football. Yeah, that's kind of what it felt like watching Jimbo with all those pages sometimes, like
Jimbo, dude.
Looking for any type of reprieve or outlet.
Jimbo was my goat, dude. Bring him back.
Somebody get me a play.
Bring Jimbo back.
Bring Jimbo. I genuinely don't know why they let the guy go. I mean, that's his home. He has a ranch there.
Yeah.
You got to take care of the guy. But no, being realistic. Being realistic,
they take care of him money wise.
That's true.
Yeah, money.
Money wise, he's in a good spot. He's not worried about anything. But yeah. So A&M, y'all are getting a little love here. We both 9 wins and then at least 8 wins.
Yeah, I think the floor is probably like 7, which then the 7.5 number probably doesn't make too much sense now that I'm saying that.
You're gonna ruin it, man. They're gonna come for you now.
Yeah, floor is 7. Floor is 7. I would say the ceiling is probably 10, and that includes a bowl. 11 if you include a bowl.
So they got to be pretty happy with that ceiling. I was gonna, I could, with everything goes right, but
health, man, like it depends on Wegman's health. It depends on,
but it's they're gonna sit there and tell you you've only had 1 injury in his career, and it was last year, and the year before he got sick and it was COVID. And I had to go look and do my homework too, man. Then I was like, oh, okay. I thought he missed a Florida game because he was hurt. And turns out he just had COVID. So, yeah, I get it. He still has to stay healthy, but it has just been the 1 injury. But it was a season, ending injury. So he does have to stay healthy. You're not wrong at all. But I said that a couple of times on the channel, and they've been like, hey, man, it's 1 injury. Okay, relax.
What are you talking about? I got COVID.
Relax. Yeah, COVID.
Did you see a positive test?
But yeah, fair enough. But pretty high. I think I actually really like Connor Wigman. I think he'll be a good player. They got to have O-line play though. That's going to come down to O-line for the Aggie offense as far as how effective they are, and they got to give him and Colin Klein a chance to work together and get things done. And if that O-line holds up, which I do like Coach Cushing, I think there was worse hires. I'd prefer that you went back to old Steve Adazio, but I think Aggie reports just like he's handled that situation. I don't know. He's done something. We haven't seen Steve in a while. But no, all right, we'll wrap up with A&M. We'll go to the Sooners real quick. Gage, how do you feel about Oklahoma? The schedule's a nightmare. The offensive line's really young. What are your thoughts on Brent Venables? What are your thoughts overall in the Sooners program and kind of, I guess, the trajectory? Like, do you think that they are in a good place overall?
I think that we'll use the word shafted with the schedule. Like it's tough. And then I'm not a big Venables believer as a head coach. But I will say at one point I was probably a Venables to Texas person. But that was, back then. But I think Venables is a good coach. Like, I think that OU's defense is going to be really, really good. They're going to give a lot of teams problems. I just not sure with this schedule. Like, it's really hard for me to envision like them winning more than I would say like 8 wins. If you win 8 wins, like if you do win 8 games, I'm not saying they're going to. If you do win 8 games, if you're Oklahoma, like that's a success. Like that's like you should be feeling really good about the next year when you get the opposite and you get the Texas schedule, hopefully. So but yeah, there's games in here where it's like, okay, so you get Tennessee at home, at Auburn. I think at Auburn, like again, I just like Peyton Thorne versus the OU defense. I really think OU's got the advantage there, and I know that Auburn's going to be a little bit better or Auburn's going to be a little bit better than they have been, but OU's defense is going to give Peyton Thorne some trouble, I think. Tennessee, here's the thing about Tennessee is you get them in Norman, and they've also got a unproven quarterback coming into Norman with that defense, and we'll see what Nico is. I know he had a good bowl game. And I'm sure Tennessee fans are like, well, he had a good bowl game. He's going to be the best ever. And he's had all these great reports coming out of camp. But it's different when I think, I've had some comments about SEC people and like they think that, OU and Texas are just going to be pushovers, and that we should be pushovers. But I think you're going to be a little bit shocked.
That was cool. I didn't realize we did that.
You can't be shocked. They are going to be shocked when they see that game and they have to go to Norman and they see that Norman crowd and that defense. And I think they're gonna be like, okay, maybe these people were a little bit more SEC ready. So I don't want to say that I'm locking arms with OU fans going into the season because I do want to shut some of these SEC people up. But I do think that they will do better than people think. Like I think they're going to win 7 games. And I know it sounds stupid. Like, oh, they're going to do better than people thought they're going to win 7 games at least. But 7 games with this schedule, even an SEC team should be happy with 7 games, 7 wins with this schedule. So, Texas, I'm not going to say that Texas is going to beat them, but we need to beat them.
Like, we don't need to beat them. We have to beat them. There's no excuse for. There's no excuses.
We're the better team this year, and
they're the better team last year and lost, which is why you must win as the better team this year.
Yeah, it's gonna hurt. It's good. We've seen it before, but it's gonna hurt in recruiting. Like, and that's the thing with these rivalry games, even with A&M. Like now that we're playing A&M every single year, like that's gonna sway people's minds sway some of these kids' minds when it comes to recruiting. And it's like we need to start beating OU, or a lot of these Dallas kids that. For some reason, some of them are going to Oregon too, but it's gonna be a lot harder for us to keep them away from OU when OU's like, look, they say they're getting better, but we beat them how many times out of the last 15 years? So it's like, yeah, we need to start winning some of these OU games, even if it comes at I don't know. We just got to start winning, period, because we're going to struggle.
We're going to get Ole Miss. So yeah, you're talking about a kid or two a cycle, probably. That I'm not saying they make their decisions solely on, but even if it comes, you got to win the game. Like you're saying, you talk about, Sarkisian's first year at Texas. He gets all the recruits on the sideline for the 2021 Texas game. He makes sure they came to that game, and he loaded it up. And not all coaches do that because you want to focus more on the game, or maybe you don't want to see them, play the big rivalry and watch you potentially lose to another program that's also recruiting a lot of those same kids. And we get a 28-7 and then we blow it, and a few of those kids that don't end up choosing Texas kind of think back and wonder. It's like, hey, if we end up winning that day on the field and things were going the way they were in the first quarter, hey, do they make a different decision? So
does it? Yeah. Does it? Who knows? But you got to put yourself in the kid's mind, I guess. And in my mind, like if I'm out there, I have no allegiance. But then the rest of their schedule, they got Mississippi, they got at Missouri, which is going to be an electric game. They get Alabama at home. They go at LSU. So I think the question of the LSU is like, back and forth, like how much their defense improved. I actually like OU's chances in that LSU game. I know, I know we keep going back and forth on the LSU. We'll have to talk more about LSU, but I like their chances. Even though it's at LSU, I wish it was in Norman, but I like their defense. I think Jackson Arnold will grow up a little bit, and you know, as SEC people like to say, defense wins championships. So I'm gonna say they're gonna win 7 or 8 games.
7 or 8 games. I think that if they find 7 or 8 wins, like you said, I mean that's probably the signs of a really good football team. With that schedule, that's not an easy schedule, top to bottom. I mean, it's got to be one of the hardest in the country. Maybe Florida would only complain and say, "Hey, we got one way worse." I think personally, you know, I just need to see, man. I do have a lot of faith in their defense, to be honest. I think though they might give us fits because of the defense. I don't think at the moment, just from the bodies that they have on the offensive line and seeing, I haven't seen enough out of Jackson Arnold to say like, hey, yeah, that's a team that I'm really, really, really worried about. And I'm talking about taking off the letters off the helmet and the Sooners off the jersey, and you're talking about just on paper, you know, I really like our chances to beat them. But then you talk about the rivalry factor and, you know, seeing more of Jackson Arnold. So I'll address that more later. I feel good about beating them.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll talk plenty about that game the week leading up to it. So,
but yeah, so I like them against Tennessee, kind of, you know, like you just said, you know, whoops, wrong button. I like their chances against Tennessee, but I have, this is the second game that I've guaranteed. I guaranteed 1 loss for each rival, no, 1 win for a rival, 1 loss. Now I did guarantee Oklahoma loses and Auburn. I think that the Tigers will be undefeated. It's really early in the year; they'll be 4-0. I think the Auburn will get a night game for that. I really like Tennessee. I really like, you know, Oklahoma's chances of beating Tennessee. And so you beat Tennessee at home to start the SEC season. You're on a big high. I think the Auburn game's going to be tough. I'll say that. Now, after that, it just gets wild, man. You're talking about every single game could be, you know, I'm not saying it's a coin flip. You could lose every one. You have the talent to probably win several of them, but it's just going to get really hard. You know, obviously anything can happen in the Red River game. I'm not saying that we're guaranteed to beat them. We dang well better, because I think they are going to take some losses late in the season, and it would really hurt if we're not, you know, one of the teams that kind of put it on them. Yeah. I think that Oklahoma can win 8 games and have, like you said, and have a great football team. Now, maybe not a great, but a good football team. But now think, what's their fan base's reaction? You know, OU wins 8 games. Are they mad?
Yeah.
They're going to be mad, right? And so
I would think so. Just knowing the people in their fan base, like, yeah, they're gonna be upset.
I mean, I'm gonna say they go 7-5, and it's not a knock, man. The schedule is insane, and you know the offensive line. We'll see. Bill Bedenbaugh knows his stuff, and obviously, like me and Sooners have talked about this on channels for the last couple of weeks. Like, congrats again, Michael Fasusi. Like, good for y'all. Okay. You know, he's a great recruiter. But what's it, you know, we'll see if this particular offensive line for the 2024 Sooners, you know, if they've made their jump, and they may have, you know, I know from camp reports, you know, it seems to be a little worried about spots. But with camp, you're going to get the good and bad reports. It's not going to be all sunshine most of the time. So
it seems they're worried about Jackson Arnold too. So, and we'll see, but.
And so, yeah, exactly. And so when it comes out to it, and or it comes down to it, you know, I think that the 7-5 prediction is not necessarily like a knock on the program. I just think things are obviously going to be a lot tougher. And if they're not able to protect Jackson Arnold and run the football well, then I mean, you probably are staring at 7-5, potentially worse. But if y'all pulled off, you know, you Sooner guys, if y'all pulled off 8 wins against that schedule, I mean, that, in my opinion, like that isn't like that would be like an A season, A- season.
I will give you your flower. Like 8-4 is almost as good as 10-3 for NC State. Like, if we want to go back to that, you know what I'm saying? 8-4 Oklahoma schedule is just as good as a 10-3 for NC State. It's just it's not going to get you in the playoff because it's 8-4.
But Sooner fans that know ball, and they're looking around and they're like, dude, we just played, what do you play, 6 of the top 15 teams or something? Like, that's insane. And so if you go 8-4, you go 7-5, then there's going to be people that are like absolutely pissed at Brent Venables, and it'll be unjustified because that schedule is gnarly, and Jackson Arnold's going to be a first year starter. There's going to be growing pains. Now the only thing is like we better not let them beat us and have a little bit of chirping to do because I think they will drop, another 4 games, 3, 4, 5
Yeah.
games.
Yeah.
But we'll see, man. Time will tell. So Gage, what'd you say? 8-4? Was that your official Sooner prediction?
I'm gonna go 7-5 will be my official, but I
Okay.
think they can win 8 games. I'm gonna go 7-5 though.
I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to say ceilings 8-4. I know that I'm really hoping that doesn't bother any Sooners out there. I just think that the schedule is absolutely tough, man. And with the inexperience on the O line and a quarterback, obviously the wide receiver room is going to be really good. I know y'all took a loss with Jaden Gibson, but you got to have somebody to get those guys the ball. And I'm not saying Jackson Arnold can't. I'm just saying I'm predicting you to go 7-5 because I've got to see it to believe it when I'm talking about better O-line play, better quarterback play. And we don't have enough, evidence of Jackson Arnold to say he's had bad quarterback play. It was a bowl game. It was one game. Texas fans overreacted to it. It's funny to do.
Well, I think Travis said something interesting about it. Was the timing kind of issue and the decision making in Levy's offense, and like that Dylan Gabriel is just more of that type of quarterback than Jackson Arnold. So it will be interesting to see the new offense with Jackson Arnold. It won't be so much of the timing and decision making. It'll be interesting to hear Travis's thoughts on what I just said, but
yeah, I mean, I know he'll probably slide in at some point next week and give one to us if he watches. But I just we have to predict the rivals, man, and it's really not that. I've been on the channel and I've said that the longer that Brent Venables stays at Oklahoma, the better off I think the Sooners are, and or the better at Oklahoma I think he does rather. I think that he'll recruit his type of players for his defense. He's shown that he can coach up a defense, and they're going to have another good defense this year, which should only help defensive recruiting. You got to keep putting out good offenses. Self Latrell is former Sooner. Obviously, he's got a pretty dang good little resume for how young he is as far as coaching skins. And so we'll see what happens. I think it's really important for Oklahoma to get off to a big start. And Houston, I don't think is enough to test that Oklahoma defense, obviously. But that Tennessee and Auburn game is going to be a real fun stretch. And
that Tennessee game, I think it's going to be like an introduction to the SEC. Like that's what people think it's going to be, but I think it might be a little bit of the opposite of like an introduction to what OU is as well. So it'll be interesting to see that game and see both those quarterbacks against those defenses.
Yeah. Well, one last topic real quick. We'll get back to our side real quick. A couple questions. Who is going to be Texas's offensive MVP in 2024?
Their offense and defensive MVP?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think I've been big on my Jaden Blue from he's from Houston. I really like him. Obviously, we need a running back to step up. I think Jaden Blue is gonna be a beast, man, and I'm concerned about running back depth because I'm concerned about red zone and short yardage situations, but I'm not concerned about running back overall. As long as Jadon stays healthy, he's going to really do it. I think that he's going to be our offensive MVP. I think we'll look back and at him as long as he stays healthy and be like, listen, Sark has always produced these running backs. And I think that even last year we were going into the season a little bit concerned about running back position, and it turned out to be pretty dang good. So I really like Jaden Blue to be our offensive MVP. And then defensive MVP, that's a tough one. What's your offensive MVP? Give me a second to think about it.
No, you're great.
Because I'm going back and forth between a couple of guys.
No, you're great. I think Kelvin Banks is going to be the best player on the offense. Obviously, NFL draft guys agree with that. Quinn Ewers will be my MVP because I think that we'll have to rely on him so heavily, and I think the offensive line as a whole will do a great job. And so I think it would be unfair to single out one of them as the MVP when I think they're all going to do a pretty dang serviceable job for Texas. Should be one the best offensive line that we've had, and I mean you're talking quite a while, man. Over 15 years, maybe all the way back to the 2018. But yes, that's where I'm going. I'm going to go Quinn. I don't think that there's anything wrong with your Jaden Blue pick. I question how many touches he's going to get because we are going to need him week in and week out. But at the same time, you don't want to overuse a guy because you need him week in and week out, and you don't want to just beat him up. But he has that big time home run play potential, and I know there's going to be some special moments, man, with him. So that's a good pick. I like that. We got Jaden Blue for Gage and Quinn Ewers for me for Texas offensive MVP. And let's go to the defensive side.
Okay, I got my defense. I was going back and forth on a couple guys. I'm gonna go Trey Moore. I think I watched a little bit of tape on him from last year when he was at UTSA, but he's big. He's SEC ready. Like it's not like a normal transfer from a conference. What conference is UTSA in? Conference USA.
Is it Sun Belt?
They might be. No, that's Texas State.
No, that's Texas State. Sorry,
yeah.
I'm worried about the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, so but he's big, he's physical. We've heard good things out of camp and Gannett's camp. We've heard good things about his pass rush. I think we're going to need his pass rush in the SEC. So I really like Trey Moore. I think Colin Simmons is going to have a big role too. But I think that Trey Moore is going to be the guy. Like we look back at the end of the year that we're like, thank goodness he was on our team.
Yeah, it's the AAC. My bad.
AAC.
Yeah, that's Memphis, Tulane, all that group should be a fun conference to keep up with too.
Yeah, UTSA's got a chance to win that one.
I like that. I think he's a really cool addition. As far as college football 25 goes, he's a stud, man. I swear, like half the snaps, he's at the quarterback before the ball is. It's fun to watch. But hopefully, see some of that on the field too. That's a great pick. I'm going to go with Anthony Hill just because I think that the addition of Johnny Manson, bringing him over from linebacker or to Arizona to help coach linebackers, I think as coachable as Anthony Hill is, as cerebral as he is, obviously athletic and talented, could be a big time year. Last year we saw him mostly, rushing passer, and he's going to do a little bit of everything. And so reports on Anthony Hill are so high, but at the same time, they're very high on Trey Moore. They're very high on Brian Broughton and Alfred Collins. They're very high on a lot of defensive players. And so for those people out there right now, just letting you guys know that the guys out there that really think Texas defense is going to struggle. I mean, this defense will be better than last year's defense as a whole.
I don't want people to think because I didn't pick Texas to win the national championship that I don't believe that this team isn't.
Absolutely.
I mean, this team is fully capable of winning a national championship, and I think that Sark needs to get it done. Like I think we need to make a push at this national title. Like just because I didn't pick them doesn't mean I don't think that we can. I really do think we can. I think we've got all the tools in place to beat any team in the country, and it just depends on injuries. It depends on a lot of different things throughout the year, of course. But yeah, our defense is going to be really good. And I guess I was going back to the OU thing. Like, I think that Texas is going to have more, a couple of welcome to Texas moments to some of these SEC schools.
I mean, it could definitely happen. You look at last year and, you can make the argument. I think Texas would have beat Michigan in the national championship if they played? I lean towards no, because I think the Michigan defense and the Michigan pass rush was really, really good. And I think they could have, caused some fits for us. I'm not saying we couldn't have won the game. But so to make your point, things can happen. I think that we were a better football team overall than Washington was. We ran the football better. That we threw the ball really well. They threw the ball a little bit better, but they were pretty inconsistent at times too. Michael Penix had a few bad games. Obviously, Quinn had his struggles. Washington had to get lucky. I don't remember who it was, where they got lucky with a field goal or a missed field goal at the end, I believe, to hold on to the game. I mean, it happens. Sometimes you play down to your opponents. And so Texas, obviously there's less room for margin as far as that whole regard. Playing down to your opponents in the SEC, you play down to a Houston, you got a little more wiggle room than you would if you play down to a Florida or a Kentucky. And so I did not pick Texas either. I picked Alabama to beat us in the SEC championship. At the same time, I think we're fully capable of beating Alabama on any given Saturday. Fully capable of beating Georgia, Oregon, Ohio State. I don't think there's a team out there between the experience that we have offensively and defensively, and then the right mix of talent, and then obviously a coach is really good scheming up people on offense. And defense, we've bent a lot, but we don't always break. And if we can just find a way to stop giving up the big play in the passing game, which obviously we've tinkered a ton with the secondary, you can really, really do some cool things, man. Because go back to the Washington game. We lose by 6, and what do? Well, the first or second play of the game, we have a busted coverage, a missed tackle, and a 75-yard touchdown.
And Penix had, and I'll say that Penix had the best game of this year. Yeah, he was crazy in that game.
Yeah, and
there were throws there even during the Michigan game that I was like, I mean, I would have made that last later, but I'm like, dang, dude, like that throw was horrible compared to the throws you were making in the Texas game. So,
well, part of me, man,
is what it is. That's football.
I wanted to play them just looking at the schemes and the styles. I was like, dude, I wish we could play them like in North Dakota and 35-degree temps and big wind. I was like, because we'll run the ball, right? We ran the ball well. We just had the fumbles that killed us. But when we ran the ball, there was a big injury
throughout the year that might have changed the outcome of that game. So,
yeah, that's a good point. And it's just we play them in the Sugar Bowl inside the Superdome, and there's no wind, and he's dotting us up left and right, and played his best football that he had played maybe all season, but definitely in several weeks there, because he was kind of struggling down the stretch. He needed that,
and he struggled in the Michigan game, and like it was never, they were getting a little bit better pass rush. I don't think that we weren't getting pass rush. Like there were a lot of things that I think that we did right in that game, and I don't want to get too far into it, but like I just think that he had a great game, and he had a great performance. And sometimes when you get to that stage, that's what it takes. Is sometimes you just need your star guy to step up and have a great game. And that's exactly what happened. Is Penix stepped up and had a great game.
And Texas still almost overcome that to win the game.
Yeah,
and
that's how talented we were.
Exactly. And so when people, if they want to get honest right now for kind of, for a little fluff piece, Texas is going to be really good, and they're going to be really, 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 really difficult to beat. They're going to be really, really deep. Everybody on the defensive line, there's a lot of confidence there. There's confidence in the guys behind them, especially at edge. 5 or 6 bodies you can trot out at edge. You're talking about a secondary that we've mentioned with a lot of tinkering, a lot of movements. Jalen Gilbo at nickel. You've moved Jadae Barron a corner. You've added Andrew Makuba. Derek Williams is still there.
Yeah. Makuba was the other guy that I was kind of going back and forth with the Trey Moore. Yeah. I have heard I haven't heard like great things about Makuba coming out of camp, but like I really like Makuba, man. He's going to be really good in coverage, and he tackles very well too. So I'm super excited for him. Yeah, that's a big loss for Clemson.
Yeah, that is. They're going to be good at safety, but Makuba still would have started there. Mr. Matt, if he plays as well as Sergio Kindle did,
it's a good comparison.
We'd all take it down here, no doubt.
Yeah, he's big, man. Like, he does not look like he should be a freshman in college.
So, I guess that just about does it. We're high on Texas. I've got Texas going 11-1, losing to Alabama in the SEC championship game, making a college football playoff run. I believe I had us dropping a game to Oregon in the semifinals, I believe. I had us going to the championship. So hopefully we deliver a little more clutch teams and lose in the SEC title and the Natty title. And then Gage, you said 10-2, correct?
Yeah, 10-2. And then they lose to Georgia in the quarterfinal.
Okay. Well, I'm going to clip it. Gage is at 10-2 for Texas.
It's going to be so wrong.
I am at 11-1. No, it's not, because Texas is going to go out there and they're going to handle business. Yeah. Okay.
No, that's true. Yeah.
That's what we're going to get. We're going to get it done. But Gage, brother, it's finally good to finally do this with you. We talk every day. I appreciate what you do in my life, man. It's been great getting to know you and becoming a good buddy. So to do this with you, man, it was a lot of fun. Thank you for sharing all of your predictions. Thank you guys in the comments. It's a lot of fun keeping up with you guys every time that we do this. You guys are always here, and it's really, really cool. It means the world to me. But just so you know, what would also mean the world to me is if you hop in that link on my bio and subscribe to this channel, because I've got a ton of cool things planned. I've got 2 months worth of guests booked up for Monday show, Tuesday show, Wednesday show, and I'm hoping y'all will come back and keep giving us a chance. The last couple weeks have been a lot of fun. Go back and check the YouTube channel. You can see some of the old videos. We had Dia Bell, 2026 Texas quarterback commit on. I brought that up several times. Go watch Uncle Chris and the Tigers. That was this last Tuesday's episode. You Sooner fans, I had JP on Wednesday, and me and JP talked a lot, mostly about Oklahoma and what he thought about your chances this year. But yeah, and then you guys give old Mr. Gage Sheets at SheetsG23 a follow on Twitter. Gage, thank you a lot, brother. Hook 'em horns.
Thanks,
Let's
man.
do it one more time sometime soon.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, y'all have
right.
a good night. We'll see y'all soon. Thank you.
Yep.